I hear it. It's coming, guys. Ah, there we are.
Yep, game number 1, starting in at Baltune's base, spawning in on this south side as the French, teammate Crackedy over here in the east as the English, and looking with the early mill, maybe early wheelbarrow opening. And what do we have on the other side?
On the other side, their opponents in this best of 5 on the opposite side of the rockiest of canyons, Beasty. No, that's FeAge, excuse me, playing as the French, putting down that outpost pretty early. We talked about early outposts. I think Lash did one about 2 minutes in. This is an early outpost. His teammate being Beasty, playing as the Malians in the color red, which all of us, I would imagine, know and love at this point, going with the typical Malian opening. And we'll take a look at that spawn, that gold mine, or that pit mine, and those houses around it. Gold's not in a bad spot, I think.
Yeah, and one thing you kind of people might be questioning is like, why build the outpost? There's nothing coming. It's like, well, they don't know that nothing's coming. Crackedy easily could have dropped a barracks to start off instead of going with the early mill and wheelbarrow, and could have been sending men-at-arms all the way across. So he's making a sacrifice now, but it could end up being a benefit later on. It's all just going to be on how much damage can Baltune potentially do with having his gold, not having any outposts, not having any worry there, and extra wood for resources elsewhere.
And I guess for FeAge too, when you talk about the outpost, like, he knows he's going to get raided at some point, right? Usually, I don't like to say, hey, you should put an outpost even though nothing's going on, but like, you're not going to be raiding the Malians. Like, it's pretty, as we talked about before this game even started, how difficult it is to raid the Malians. You want to be able to raid the French because you want to make sure that their night output isn't as productive as yours. So that might be the target of attack for Baltune as he goes up to feudal age. You see that school of cavalry going down, and a really good timing from him too.
Yeah, I love this. Is the quick age up build with a very quick night where you end up having it. I think it's like night out at age up pre 4 minutes and like night out pretty soon after that. And so really cool and interesting way you can start with the French. It does, not have as much eco later on, but that first night with the timing could just be devastating. And Beasty going with the Saharan trade network to protect up that gold. You talked about Mali with their defenses, with the unraidability. Well, trade network isn't even always opted for, and now that makes them even less raidable.
Yeah, I mean, the gold is a little bit farther out there. It's not an unraidable area, but when you have a landmark that's a 5,000 hit point outpost, it kind of makes it so you can't raid that spot. But with these School of Cavalry timings, like you mentioned before, Baltune's going to hit it in probably about 15-ish to 20 seconds. I don't know if that's enough time to actually queue up a knight, get the knight out to the other side before FeAge has one. But if that is, and the count is 1-0, FeAge still has a knight in his queue, it could be quite the issue.
Ooh, and it looks like, there it is, knight is in queue. Gonna be running on across here in the near future, and Baltune moving out for the deer. This is where a lot of times we've seen this almost work in reverse, where you'll be on the deer earlier in a dark age, and now when you know knights may be coming, that's when you pull back. Or if you're the one who gets the knight out quicker, you get the step forward and you don't have to fall back from the deer. So maybe that's what his idea is.
Yeah, and I think if it does work out, obviously it would be a very good strategy, right? I mean, a lot of the times for French players that we've seen pretty regularly is they do things like go for something like a second town center on that deer patch instead of just going there. But Baltune is going straight in the aggro department. He's going straight militaristic because he wants to cripple his French counterpart on the other side of the map.
And Crackedy is also going straight military. No stone being gathered yet for the English. A lot of times in these team games, you'll see stone being gathered quite early or even midway through for the English player to get that secondary TC. But Crackedy wants longbows out quicker, and this can become a very big problem if they're able to start splitting the base, if they're able to get on top of production and get that mass together.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll see if he actually does have the ability to do that. Beastie going with the age-old Malian strategy of those warrior scouts. Just has 2 right now and probably will end up getting just a couple more. Now, usually when you have something like the Saharan Trade Network, and I know I'm dating myself back to season 4, but you kind of expect fast castle, right?
Yeah, typically you do, but it doesn't always end up that way. Sometimes you just build it to be your protective spot. Oh, Scout's going to go down. Warrior Scout pick. Great job by Beastie. No body blocking by Baltune, which is something you might have tried to see, but Scout would have gone down nonetheless.
Yeah, and I mean that's what makes warrior scouts so frustrating to play against, right? Where you can't scout your opponent, right? Just because they have warrior scouts, they're going to be able to kill yours, so you can't really have an understanding of what's going on the other side of the map. Beastie actually pretty early with the wall strategy, Dabs.
Yeah, very, very short segment though, so it's not like it's a huge investment, and it forces so much extra time for the runaround. But looks like Baltune and Crackedy are both planning to focus down FeAge. Crackedy dropping in some walls himself right as Knights were circling around, so really great timing for him. But the deer need to be watched out.
Yeah, FeAge just finally gets around that area. That was a good wall by Crackedy around the eastern side, and hopefully you might be able to pick out a couple villagers, but FeAge has to deal with a decent amount of idle time. Knights actually get a good charge down, one villager down.
That villagers just got obliterated by those Knights, but the rest of the Knights go out unscathed. Still no damage on the other side from those Knights that are in a good position to potentially hit the deer, but just haven't been able to go around because where's the pressure? It's all on FeAge's base. He can't get any gold. There's no more gold for him right now. He's having to move out to the backside to try to secure another gold vein, but all this means idle Knight production.
Yep, and when you just have a few less Knights, it could make a difference. Another good charge on that English farmer. A little bit, that last piece of wheat that he ever picked up is going to be on the ground. Beastie on the other side, going with professional scouts, does have a decent amount of warrior scouts, and will pick up those deer patches. We've seen a lot of pro scouts today.
Yes, we have. Outpost villager able to jump inside. Charge misses, and a Knight reinforcing is able to jump on out. The villager didn't run all the way home though, so another vill does end up going down for Baltune as he was stuck microing at other points in the map and lost a Knight over there as well. So great job by FeAge, although loses some Knights himself.
Yeah, we talked about this in other French games that we've seen. About 8 minutes, 30 seconds into the game, you see FeAge forced to make about 2 or 3 horsemen instead of Knights. And again, I mean, you're in feudal age and you're making horsemen instead of Knights as a French player, you're not happy.
Yeah, we can see the circle around. Wall never got built. I was looking at the minimap and I was like, oh, that wall's up. We're somewhat secure, but not for much longer. There is a little bit of a jab thrower mass with some warrior scouts there to try to close it, but I don't know if this is going to be it's definitely going to be enough there with FeAge's military. This is actually going to be a really good pickup for Beastie, and FeAge going to be able to wipe out the rest of those longbows most likely.
Yeah, I mean, they might be able to take down a Knight or 2 in the process, but the javelin throwers, just because of the range that they have, they're able to take down those long bowmen. Looks like another one's going to end up going down. Knights, not necessarily any of them got killed, but they're going to be damaged, which again, we talk about French Knights over and over again. Just as long as you're not dead means that you're okay with that little bit of chivalry.
Yeah, speaking of, that was unbelievable micro by Baltune. He turned 3 different times. They were able to kill out all the horsemen and all the Knights except for one on the side of FeAge that was in that grouping. So really solid job of turning something bad into at least a somewhat beneficial thing.
Yeah, and I think those are make it and break it for pro players. You know, having the presence of mind to do a couple turnarounds like that, saving your Knights while trying to do the best you can to get your teammates' longbows out of there. It wasn't necessarily successful, but I would definitely rather lose 4 or 5 longbowmen than lose 4 or 5 Knights.
Yeah, 10 out of 10. 100% of the time. We still see some of those horsemen being grouped in together, and Baltune only has been on the knights because he hasn't had his gold focus. So really good ability by them. But Beasty has been all across the map gathering these deer. Speaking of, villagers are on these deer, and he's about to get his whole deer stack taken. Every single one of them.
Oh my God, get yoinked. Let's see if he actually picks up all
Every
of
single
these
one. Every single one.
Knights are coming from Baltune though, and I think BC might need to drop a couple of these.
I mean, what are you gonna go do? Drop a mill at each of these deer carcasses now?
Oh, true. Yeah. Oh no, this is terrible for Baltune. But
Oh, actually, I would drop him there. I would
back.
drop him there. You're good there. I'd drop a mill there. That's four. That's four. You're good. Drop a mill there.
I thought those knights were just gonna pass through. I mean, obviously they don't have the sight of scouts, but oh my God, Baltune is gonna go to this deer patch over here on the western side, and Beasty might just do it again.
Oh no, FeAge, don't take that fight. Oh yeah, you can already see how the knight number has just slowly, continually tilted toward Baltune's favor. FeAge trying to get a raid in on Crackedy's eco. Great job defending up himself. Kind of surprised he hasn't gone for some stone and some age ups himself. And is Beast? No, they're just walling up this side fully. It might be trade coming in soon after that.
Yeah, I mean, he does have the trade network, so if you want to do a trade route in that area, that might not be a bad idea. But Beasty will be aging up to the Castle Age Malians, being the first one of usual, and will be getting the Farimba garrison. So with a lot of the longbowmen that Crackedy has and that increased knight mass that Baltune has, what's nice about the Farimba garrison is you can make just about every unit. So if you need Donzos, you can make them. If you need to make javelin throwers, you can make those too.
Jeez, this is starting to look a little bit better for Beasty and FeAge now, but it is still a bit of a ways to go, as Crackedy not the only one who is going to be going up to Castle Age on the other side. He's matching it with the King's Palace himself.
Yeah, and I know for Crackedy, I mean, obviously getting that another town center is a really good idea. They are ahead a little bit in the eco count. FeAge getting a little ballsy with his night mass, trying to find some Baltune villagers.
And villagers just running towards Crackedy's base, running towards that longbow mass, knows that there's now enough longbows to effectively deter away those knights. But the knights have found other spots for villagers, other locations, and at least gonna find some additional connections.
Yeah, and I mean, he might have gotten maybe one or two workers into that one. Oh, no.
Oh! Luckily, Crackedy's probably yelling in his ear, "Watch out, watch Baltune, watch out!"
Yeah, and Baltune just didn't watch out that much in time with a couple of them going down. But Crackedy, with the King's Palace, will be able to help out in the economic side of things. But for Baltune, I mean, it's so important to make sure your villagers stay alive, because those knights are so expensive, and you just got to keep making them for the rest of the game.
Yep, and you can already just see knight number continually been tilting towards the favor of Baltune, who might actually be idling out some production, might want to go up to Castle Age soon. The thing I'm really scared for is when Beasty all of a sudden decides to turn online and start producing a ton of military with all this deer stack that he's been doing.
Yeah, and I think that's really, we're going to see that happening within the next 2 or 3 minutes. I mean, obviously the Farimba garrison came up for him, so he's going to be making archers 5 at a time. He already has 15. Crackedy has 33 longbowmen. It took him a considerable amount of time to make throughout the course of the game. We're going to see Beasty match that number if he decides to continue with archers, maybe mix in a little javelin throwers as well, which is what he's doing. Military count is going in favor of Beasty's team, and I would imagine just because of the Farimba existing, it's going to keep going.
Yeah, Baltune has definitely started idling his knight production, though. I expect Royal Institute being dropped at any point in time now. He actually just ran out of his gold and doesn't have enough to age up quite yet.
No, it looks like he has a little bit of time. That mill, actually, those deer did not get yoinked. So good job by Baltune, but does find a gold mine over there, so we'll be able to get there. Eventually, I feel like when Baltune does hit Castle Age, it might be the time to strike now. FeAge, now looking at it, he has the exact same amount of knights as Baltune.
Yeah, Baltune definitely started to struggle with the food, and I wouldn't be surprised if FeAge got a few deer from his buddy and teammate over there, Beasty. And it looks like Baltune yet again going to be focused by the mass of not only FeAge this time, but also Beasty.
Yeah, and FeAge at the same time going up with the Royal Institute, so he will be able to hit veteran status. What's really nice about this timing with Royal Institute, I mean, obviously you have so many knights, and it's really going to help with Royal Bloodlines, but also the battle is being taken place in your opponent's base, so you can't necessarily be like, oh, my opponent went Castle Age, let's go kill him. You can't, because you have that immediate danger right here, and Beasty and FeAge, you can tell how much they've practiced, and if anybody watches Beasty stream, you know they practice a lot. How well they're able to have their units together. They basically walk around the map together. It's fantastic.
Yep, and it doesn't matter about immobility when you are acting as one grouped in unison. So Crackedy, though, has built this longbow number to a point where I don't care if you're playing against knights, you're playing against jabs, whatever it may be. They're quite scary, but you can't fight two armies just by yourself. You're gonna need Baltune here as well. Doesn't want to fight this. New Age just begins, so won't want to take this yet, but they will have to take this now.
Yeah, you could see on the bottom left part of your screen, Baltune getting that upgrade for Veteran Royal Knights. Obviously, FeAge is doing the same thing. It looks like both of them just wanted to shake hands and go the other way, but Baltune, he's continuing to get raided. FeAge is doing a good job getting rid of this food economy.
Yeah, just no walls have come in at all. Beasty just doing a little bit of some annoyance. I've seen him doing this a lot in the games. When you hear a Wololo, you have to look around for where it is. So if something else is going on, such as a raid or something else, like whatever it may be, it makes you look away.
Oh, exactly. It takes your eyes off it. I mean, honestly, it fools Vodka every time. Vodka does a great job, but he checks that Wololo every single time Beasty hits it, so it's working on somebody.
Yeah, well, you need to check it. You gotta check it. And the main fight is engaging. Knights clash on in. Royal Bloodlines not yet through, but the Longbow's just doing such a good job at picking off a lot of these frontline Knights. The question is how many of Beasty's units are going to be able to stay alive after this? Looks like he is pretty efficiently clearing up the rest of this, but no more Knights left from FeAge on that front side.
Yeah, and I think the main MVP, just like you said, was those Longbowmen. They have enough DPS, and you saw how much they were able to hit those Knights for. They were able to take somewhere around 40 to 45%, maybe close to half health away from them. While FeAge on the other side doing a good job using his APM, trying to get some raids over here near the King's Palace of Crackedy. A little bit of idle time, maybe not much else. But honestly, I think it was a pretty good fight for Baltune and Crackedy. Crackedy kept his Longbowman mass. Oh my god, FeAge is so annoying, Dabs, on this berry fish.
Yeah, he's just constantly raiding around with these Knights. We do see a couple more get picked up, but this just shows you why you need walls. That's so many vills being idled out, so much food now not able to be gathered by Baltune for a bit of time, and that affects the army number quite a bit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that little bit of decreased production, like, people, I know everyone talks about having villager kills is so important, but even just having them running away from that berry patch and coming back, you know, you can see the night counts for both of these guys. FeAge lost a lot of knights in that last encounter, but now he has more than Baltune, just because him and the ability to wall just makes it unraidable. And now Baltune's going to be using those knights trying to take out the Malian archers there.
Yeah, and it's so hard. You see the purple little bits of pieces and particles behind those arrows of the Mali. It is poison archers. A significant amount of damage will actually come through from those poison archers.
Yeah, I think nobody tells Socrates, but I think there's a little bit of hemlock on those arrows, having that little bit of poison. Now, we do know it does stack only a maximum amount. Beasty also getting raids with some of the warrior scouts. You might as well make use of them. More villagers going down, Dabs, on the south side for Baltune. He's getting consistently harassed this entire game.
I think the biggest difference are the walls.
Yeah,
FeAge has not had to worry about any raids at all for the past like 10 minutes. All his food's safe. He's on the boar. He's on berries. He's on these different spots. Baltune and Crackedy both being raided constantly. And the longbows, yes, they're a high damage unit, but they're not effectively able to do that damage all the time.
Well, no, I mean, and this just goes about mobility that we've been talking about, you know, with Baltune getting raided over and over again. It's not like Crackedy can help him. Those archers are never going to get there in time.
Yeah, we do see the knights trying to dive in on those poison archers that Beasty has. Only a few scouts here. The longbows even trying to circle, but Beasty just continually kiting back and just showing that the damage still coming through pretty effectively. Eco numbers now dead even at 138 apiece.
Yeah, and I think that just constitutes how important raiding really is. Now, Beasty, his archer mass down in the south did migrate.
No!
There's nowhere to go. They can't go anywhere.
This is just, there's pings all over the map, nowhere to go, nowhere to hide, and just more and more knights of FeAges all around. Baltune's trying to do the same, but again, it's all on his side. It's not in the eco of Beasty, not in the eco of FeAge, and now we have finally seen them climb above in the eco count for the first time in quite a long time in this game.
Yeah, and I think a little bit of that was because Beasty's archer mass on the south side kind of got cleaned up, and there were a decent amount of archers. Not to say that Beasty can't make more, however, there's already 30 there. You can see that Molly and Keep over yonder on the western side. There's a bunch of longbowmen getting surrounded. They're as good as dead.
Yeah, I was just looking up at the military numbers. FeAge is at 30 knights, Baltune's at 14. This shows the difference of the raids. He's been constantly denied food. He doesn't have food right now. He's been running around his eco trying to dodge knights, trying to dodge those archers. And FeAge, he's like W key, W key, W key, and just night all day, every day, and just gets to micro them without ever having to worry about microing his vills away from raids.
Oh yeah, and oh my god, that makes it so much easier for you when you're dealing with your army. Think about, I mean, just the APM being in multiple places at once. Obviously, these players, they're some of the best that the game has to offer, so they have some of the highest APM, the best decision-making skills. But when you're in multiple places of the map at once and you're kind of forced to, it just means a lot of those things are going to suffer. And for FeAge, besides that little bit of the game in the beginning, he's never had to worry about that at all. With that map control that BC and FeAge has been continuing to have, they've just been building keeps all over the damn place.
Yeah, and I'm really surprised BC hasn't opted for trade behind this with the trade network, but it looks like he might have just dropped a market in the corner. I am not for sure if that is the truth or not yet, but one thing I know is that it is a market. One thing I know is the truth is with that Night Mass that FeAge has, he can just dive either side if he wants and just kind of end the game.
Oh yeah, it honestly does not matter at this point. And I know when you're looking at military count, you can see that Baltune is a little bit higher, a lot of them being longbowmen, a lot of them being men-at-arms. One thing that those pseudo-imperial knights for FeAge can deal with pretty well.
Yeah, but a good little pickup here by Baltune with his knights, not taking damage from the raid and picking up a few knights in the meantime. But still, the longer this game goes, Baltune will still continue to struggle if he does not build walls.
Yeah, and I think he has some kind of personal vendetta against walls, being that it's about almost 25 minutes in the game and we still don't see one yet. Beasty is actually going to be the first one to go Imperial Age with the 4th of the Huntress. Let's see if we get another mango shot.
Rocks not quite as heat-seeking as you would wish they were. Gold even starting to run out. There's an 8k gold vein, and I think one last 4k that's safe and secure. But other than that, Baltune and Crackedy in a very, very scary predicament.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I know this is a 2v2 game, but Crackedy, he's doing fine. Crackedy hasn't had much in the way of issues. And I'm going to belabor this point just because this is really what is the defining force of game one, but Crackedy's the one who has walls.
Yeah, but English isn't ever... In 2v2s, you're always focusing the French.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
So you're kind of playing devil's advocate over here, but the main fight engaging, Knights trying to dive in, but there is way more pink than blue. Even though there's spears, even though there's crossbows, it doesn't look to be enough. FeAge and Beasty are crushing the other side's army. Baltune only has a few more Knights here to micro. Still a good amount from FeAge. And doesn't look like too much longer left in this fight. Men-at-Arms trying to circle from the backside, but the poison arrowed archers are just obliterating everything in their path as well.
Yeah, it looks like those Men-at-Arms from the north trying to flank around to get that mangonel, but a lot of the ranged mass from Crackedy ended up going down pretty significantly. And it looks like Crackedy on the backside, on that eastern side, going to be trying to get that Berkshire up.
Looks like a little bit of a Wololo on the backside with a Knight raid and gets a Knight, but there were also Knights raiding the eco of Baltune during this fight. Not sure how much damage was done, but Beasty had to pull back and the Berkshire should be finishing.
Yeah, I think it will, to be honest. I didn't really think that was going to go up just because of the amount of units that Beasty still has, with a lot of those being archers. I was surprised it had the ability to, but now for the first time in this stream today, actually, we're going to see the Berkshire being able to fire from a different dimension on some of those Knights. Man, that range is insane, isn't it?
Yeah, and we finally have some walls coming in from our French side of Baltune. Much needed, and better late than never is what I like to say.
That's very true. I mean, he's going to be able to shore up his economy at least a little bit with that. And for Baltune, he does need a little bit of time while doing this, because he's got to do things like get a farm transition going, which is something that a French player, that's like a curse word telling them to do that.
Maybe he can just rely on Crackedy to send him a bunch of food, because Crackedy's Imperial Age, and Crackedy will most likely want to just continually drop more and more farms because it's food and gold, and he's got a ton of them.
Yeah, you got to think that enclosures is going to pop in pretty shortly. And I mean, those those English farm fields, I mean, this is like the entire province of Scotland that are just covered in all of those farm fields. Like we usually see a post-imperial English game played, FeAge trying to do something about it and just keep continuously raiding Baltune's farm transition that he's got going on here. It just means Baltune doesn't have the ability to make as much Knights as he wants to. Knights counts for both of these French players 23 to 11.
Yep, and looks like Beasty trying to push forward with his little archer mass. I say little archer mass. It's not that little. It's a nice old 50 stack here pushing forward. But Crackedy's there with a good amount of men-at-arms, some spears, which you don't want fighting there, and forces Beasty on back. And walls finally have been secured, but the question is, how long until Baltune tries or needs to start dropping markets to get trade into the mix?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's really got to get that sooner than later. You called that tribute, my friend. Crackedy sending 1,900 food to Baltune while he's going through that transition. That'll make some money.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it makes too much sense in games like these. The English, they got more than enough food. French needs it and struggling. Speaking of, FeAge going up with the Red Palace while this fight is going on, and they are still winning this fight pretty well, as again and again and again we keep saying it. FeAge has a bunch of pink Knights still here, and Baltune has 5.
Yeah, and dwindling. 5 and dwindling to 0 very quickly. Baltune does have a lot of Knights in the queue, but the thing of it is, if he just got 1,900 food from Crackedy and he spent them all on Knights, he will not be going Imperial anytime soon. So that means we have not only more Knights from FeAge, but better ones. Okay. I'm done. Thanks, guys. It's been a good stream.
Night. All right. So the Red Palace is going up, trying to get a nice location in between his stables. Will also obviously act as that keep and reduce the cost of those. Oh,
Yeah.
but look at the forward keeps. All of the map control is all in the favor of BC and FeAge, who also have trade already involved behind this. 15 traders in and on the map.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, from both of them, it's been pretty systematic for them. I feel like when this game got into like this early middle feudal age, ooh, nice little raid here from Baltune, getting a couple knights in there, some Malian villagers going down. They got to vacate that gold pretty soon. Look at that pathing, Dabs. Isn't that just A+ pathing?
Absolutely. You gotta love to see it. Men-at-Arms trying to come on and help, but the Knight Mass of FeAge just gets upgraded. You can see that elite status. They are a tech advantage ahead and will prove with their damage. Looks like is that an outpost upgrade? Nice, able to reach those stone villagers and a good amount of return damage.
Oh yeah, that is a lot more range than I thought it would be. Now with BC and FeAge, just the way they've played this game, it's been pretty systematic from basically the middle of feudal age onward. You know, I mean, they had their idea of how to get to late game. They had the idea of getting that incremental advantage, and now Beasty putting stone walls and getting his Malian trade up, which we all know is just a fantastic trade network. And I feel like for Baltune and Crackedy, just because they don't have this middle map position, they never got a foothold in this canyon, they're going to be running out of resources pretty quick.
Yeah, and this is almost like when we were watching the other game where Trade got up and was up earlier than the other team, and it's like, yeah, gold's starting to run out. Beasty, you can tell his plan was denial of resources. This is his game plan in a lot of games at times. It's you know, there's sometimes when you kind of make that call to extend the game out, but you know you're going to starve your opponent out of resources. There's no gold availability for Baltune and Crackedy whatsoever anymore.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think they're trying to on this eastern side. For some reason, Crackedy is sending all of his men-at-arms in this particular direction. There's a Red Palace right behind them. I mean, if he does take down this keep, that's all well and good, but he's got another demon to tackle in that regard. FeAge and Beasty looking like they're going to try to go from a south to north kind of attack. There's a lot of elite knights on those longbowmen.
Yep, Mangonel Fire, though, able to just wipe out a good bit of that archer mass. And that wasn't just a small grouping of Mangonels that's like a flanking Mangonel group. This is the whole army mass of Beasty that's just going to full go wreck all of this eco.
Yeah, and I don't see from Baltune or Crackedy any kind of anti-siege. There's 3 trebuchets from Crackedy, but not much in the way of Springolds. That wall going down, death by about 25 rocks, getting hit by all those Mangonels. And now with Crackedy, if he's going to send his military here, Mangonels are going to destroy it.
Oof. And now the horsemen trying to go for a circle. Feels like they had a decent surround, but they did not. BC just surrounding his Mangonels with his own archers, and FeAge pulling back with his knights while also raiding the other side of the map. Baltune and Crackedy both taking eco damage, and it looks like this fight not going too heavily in their favor, and they go ahead and decide to move on to game number 2. Beasty and FeAge go up 1-0.
How did Beasty keep those mangoes alive for that long? Like, I understand he surrounded his archers around, but like, what an insane piece of micro from Beasty. Having all 5 of those mangonels, they probably got 4 or 5 volleys throughout that battle. It was insane the way he was able to keep those alive. And you could see with the military count from these guys, Crackedy sending in a bunch of his men-at-arms and stuff like that, trying to take them down. See a big dip coming out from them also, and then Baltune basically didn't have much of a military to speak of.
Yeah, really solid game plan, solid game there from BC and FeAge. Crackedy, he didn't get really hurt too much, but he also had that immobile army of his just constantly in his base. Couldn't really move out and about to help his teammate as much. He tried to. He did. He had some really good trades. He had a really good longbow mass, but that's just where that strategy of Beasty proved to be enough. But going into next game, DrArabia, and what do you think about these civ choices?
DrArabia. I only see on the screen, I only see a question mark. So I'm glad you got that question out of the way for me. So I think both of them being HRE, I would imagine.
Oh, actually, it's probably not DrArabia. It's probably mountain clearing.
Based on the civ selection, I had half a mind to think mountain clearing, just because these are three of the civs that you would probably see on mountain clearing, right? But
there it is. The update happened. Yeah,
Right.
Well, I saw the DrArabia picture. I didn't even notice the question mark until you said it. I'm gonna be honest. I just saw like the little bits, and I was like, "That's the DrArabia map." All right.
I was like, I didn't sign up for a test when I started casting today.
It's getting later in the day. I zoned out a little bit. We're all good, but we're mountain clearing. It's HRE on either side, which makes perfect sense. I'm assuming it's going to be Beasty on his HRE. Mm-hmm. And Baltune and Crackedy on the other side, HRE and Molly. So the big difference is going to be that English player here.
Yeah, and I really like English on this map, and I know a lot of other people do as well. But going up against Molly, we saw how Beasty was able to, with both of these being stable, both of them being the HRE, it almost feels like I want to compare English and Molly again,
Yeah, I find that English on this map, everyone talks about the white tower in the center. It is absurd, and especially if you can follow up with the Berkshire. But also, one thing that can't go unnoticed is just a couple longbows. The range of them, the way you can just deny and delay resources and just cause enough of a reaction to then have a better castle timing yourself, potentially, if that's what you're looking for. So that's kind of one of those that if you don't react to longbows correctly, that'll just end the game right then and there.
Oh my god, yeah. And we've seen that when English does something like play against HRE on this map, right? They send like 4 or 5 longbowmen. They go over there, depending on, where the gold happens to be spawned, where the wood line is, or any of that kind of stuff. It's just some of the times you have 5 or 6 villagers from the other side where it's just easy pickings, and it just puts them at such a deficit. And one thing about, because you talked about White Tower into Berkshire, one of the things I do want to say is the White Tower's ability, especially in Castle Age and getting those sacred sites, the ability to actually make siege out of that and defend yourself around the White Tower, making sure it doesn't become a red tower with blood on the walls. And it stays up, and it makes sure that you can get both of those sacred sites. It really dictates the pace of the game, and we're going to see if Beasty and FeAge is able to do that, because what I can see on the screen is our overlay, Dabston, it's initiating.
It is initiating. So in any second now, we'll be in game number 2. We hear the sounds coming in behind this. So let's see what we have in store for us. Oh.
Hey, there we go. Excellent. Now, for game number 2, got a 1-0 lead for Baltune and Crackedy. We're going to be showing Baltune first on the Malians. His opponent, Crackedy, or his teammate, I should say, Crackedy, playing as the Holy Roman Empire. Again, using that prelate, spreading the word of their Lord Jesus Christ to all of those villagers. DrDabston, who are they playing against today?
We got FeAge in the pink as the English. And just kind of looking into this spawn, grabbing up all that sheep, loving his location. His teammate, Beasty, on his favorite civilization, his HRE, and doing the typical 1v1 opening, which is grabbing the boar in the center.
I love this, especially when you're up against a team, or in a 1v1 setting, if you're up against an opponent who's not the English, right? Because if you're going up against an English person who does this, your villagers obviously have short bows. So you go over there and they just become little military units and they're able to take down villagers on the other side. Now that FeAge is his teammate and playing as the English, he's going to be over and he'll be able to do those things. The prelate also helps them get the boar because they'll be able to heal those villagers, make sure none of them die too. It's a great play.
Yeah, this is one of those that if you're against the English, your English kind of steps forward and they scout this out and they go, oh, thank you for the boar. They pull vills forward, they kill your vills, and if you don't pull them back, you obviously you pull them back and then they just take the boar then and there. But the English as the teammate provides that extra bit of defense, so allows Beasty to be greedy and allows him to even have that deer back at home for later on when he might need it, when food resources become a little bit more scarce.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of the times when we talk about the boar, see, we're all playing checkers and being like, oh, getting the boar is a good idea. It's got good, gathering speed and all that kind of stuff. Dabston's over here playing chess. He's being like, here, there's the deer up there, short, right next to your town center, that probably 9 or 10 minutes later into this game, we're going to see villagers harvesting the deer from Beasty, and we're going to understand why it's so important to get that boar in the grand scheme of things, not just in that first minute.
Yep, and it's the Mansa Quarry and Chapel being dropped both by, the Baltune and Crackedy side. It's Council Hall and Chapel on the other side. Beasty was a little bit later on the Chapel, but that doesn't always mean you're behind in any sense. That just could be he is, obviously on this better food location, had that extra walking time. So Chapel delayed a little bit, but Castle Age can easily be finished faster.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are some of these HRE times that we've seen today have been miraculous. I think we saw Mito in one of our first series have a Regnant's Cathedral at about the 6:10 mark or something like that. I would expect either one of these players to get a time that rivals that. Now, with your Baltune for the Malians, you got to think for FeAge, you're going to make a couple longbow and you might do a little bit of disruption. But for Baltune, are you castling with your teammate?
I feel like that's too greedy in my eyes. I talk about it all the time with team games. I feel like that is a recipe for an easy loss, is going up to Castle Ages together, especially if we're talking about this early, like, what a lot of people like to call the naked Castle Age. I think if anything, it could be like a few longbows, 5, maybe 10 longbows, then into a castle. And you just looking at that gold that we just got to glance over, there were only 2 on it. That means not going for a quicker castle timing.
Yeah, and I think even just with this matchup in general, you don't necessarily need to do that, right? Not necessarily just because your teammate is also doing that, and the militaristic damage that you can suffer because of that, but also just because of how much damage you can do that you can leave on the table if you decide to go to Castle Age as well. Beasty obviously going to be doing that and stockpiling his resources. Baltune, maybe not so much, actually going with an archery range and queuing some jab throwers.
Yeah, wants to try to contest this middle boar location. One thing Vodka just pointed out was the Chapel didn't have a prelate inside because that prelate was forward on the boar. So Beasty, there's that opportunity cost of going onto the boar, is that the rest of your eco is not inspired. Your Chapel isn't actually a chapel.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a chapel if you don't have that prelate with his megaphone in there. No one's preaching, so now it's just a fancy building, right? But the scout from Crackedy doing a good job and bringing that boar over to make those longbowmen a little uneasy, some of them being at half health. One javelin thrower here with a couple in queue might be able to pick it off. And I think I really like this idea from Baltune and just making a couple of javelin throws, just like you said, instead of going straight castle, because of how much havoc those longbowmen can do.
Yeah, and speaking of castle, Crackedy, the first one starting it, realized he needed to start it a little bit safer, built it a little bit too far out, and as we know, there's not a chance that Beasty was going up with the Burgrave. He is an eco player, Regnants all the way, especially when all of these relics are just prime and just juicy for the taking.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Regnants just makes the most sense, right? I mean, you have 2 guaranteed relics in your backyard. your teammate has 2 guaranteed relics in their backyard. You get 4 relic Regnit's Cathedral pretty much automatically, and you don't need to venture out to the map to do so. If Beasty does get this Regnitz up in time before Crackedy gets a decent amount of men-at-arms with the Burgrave Palace, just like we saw in a previous mountain clearing game, he might be able to take those melee relics too.
Yeah, and it looks like Beasty already able to get a barracks down with this. So not only will he have that Regnitz finish, he's going to have a barracks. That being said, the 2, what you like to call guaranteed relics in the backyard, might not be so guaranteed with Baltune here with javelin throwers. Utilize that range. Yeah, they're under your town center, but you don't have to dive under your town center. You just have to make sure to be able to attack the relic range.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting just the way those relics spawned. Like you said, Baltune just camping 6 javelin throwers over there. And that means he's going to need a little help from FeAge if he wants to take some of these relics. Now, I don't necessarily recommend throwing a bunch of longbowmen into javelin throwers, but if it's going to give you the opportunity to perhaps take a couple of these out, but time is starting to run out. The Burgrave Palace is here. Castle Age men-at-arms are starting to storm across into Beasty's area, and if he has no military units right now, no military units equals no answer.
Yeah, and those javelin throwers gladly taking the fight against those longbows, as we can see them just one-shotting those. So we're able to take down a lot of those units without taking too much return fire damage. Even diving under the TC, able to take out a few more.
Yeah, and that's one of the things for javelin throwers that make it frustrating too, is it's because of the ranged armor they have. Look at them sitting under the town center.
Oh,
like
Wololo coming in.
Let's see.
No Wololo through. That does look like the first relic should be secured, but Beasty is fully idled. This looks like a much better timing attack than what we saw in the other game. Beasty's got 4, about to be a 4th stable, but he's not going to have the food production right now, because that's where all the men-at-arms, that's where all the javelin throwers currently are already.
Yeah, it's going to be so difficult for him to kind of make a force, and he's going to have to contest against the Burgrave Palace, which is just going to make units faster than you. You look at that on the top part of the screen. Now in the middle, there's another brigade of men-at-arms with a decent amount of armor behind it. Longbowmen aren't going to do much to him. Town center fire aren't going to do much to him. This is what I was talking about in a previous series. The Burgrave Palace has to pay off in the first couple minutes.
Yeah, and this is that exact timing we needed, the exact timing that Baltune and Crackedy were looking for when you go up with the Burgrave. You wanted that exact thing. You want to be able to try to deny some of those relics, which they denied the first 2 immediately. Beasty was forced to go to FeAge's base, bring them back. He's on 2 now, but now doesn't look like it's in time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 2 relics is great, but the only thing you have are 2 relics at 320 a minute. I mean, his villagers are essentially perpetually idled. There's 10 in a town center calling it home. Beasty's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to tie this. This game is going to get tied up. This game is BS. I'll see you in game 3.
You know what? I understand that from Beasty. I have been there before, and this shows the timing that works if you just have it. It's the game of seconds, and that little bits of second delay worked perfect, tying the series 1-1 and focusing on Beasty, who everyone knows is that strong point, that just scary player to have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main difference that we saw in the other HRE game that we watched is the Regnitz Cathedral was up 20 seconds before that. At that point, that 20 seconds matters. You know, when you're playing a game this game was only 10 minutes long. If you have a 20 to 30 second window where you have to do something, that's a good chunk of the game.
Yeah. Really solid job by Crackedy and Baltune, but that was their home map. Now we're back to Beasty and FeAge's home map, if they decide to choose theirs, which I think that's the way it goes in this one. And we're already seeing it this time. It's Dry Arabia. It says it. It says it. It's Dry Arabia.
Okay, it's actually Dry Arabia, guys. And Roos on both sides. What a time to be alive. And Beasty and FeAge. With that, Roos will be playing against or with the Ottomans and against the Abbasid dynasty. Now, on a map like Dry Arabia, I was gonna say I like Rus on Dry Arabia, but to be honest, I like Rus on every map. So
That's because Rus is the best civ on every map, basically.
yes, they are.
But
you are correct.
Every civ, they have their times. Just wait. You'll have your fun for a little bit, and then you'll get nerfed to the ground.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just enjoying myself until they make the Kremlin militia with a 12-second time span or something. I don't know.
Devs. That's I mean, I'm good with it. That seems better to me. But Ottomans and Abba are the different civilizations in this matchup. Obviously, one I would say is a little bit more militaristic focused, and one is more a little bit economic focused, but that obviously turns into military later on.
Right, and I know I know from in a 1v1 setting with the Abbasid dynasty, it's you get out of feudal age and you'll be okay, you know. And I feel like in a 2v2 situation, I haven't seen much in the way of a difference between. So with the Rus being able to have their early knights in feudal age, the Ottomans being able to produce archers at lightning speed, along with the metters, which are going to help them out too, it could prepare for some good feudal aggression between these guys. I know that's not necessarily a strategy that Beasty plays all the time, but both of those civs in combination with one another could do some feudal damage.
I feel like if Beasty's on the Rus, which that's my assumption, he's going 3 TCs. It's just he's the more economic, more investing, greedier player in my eyes, even though he's not like the old Beasty where it was like he strives and lives on the late game. He's still feudal age focused a lot, still military focused, but very much into that macro, very much into the economy.
Yeah, and I mean you can't you can't fault him for his ideas. I mean, he is he incrementally gains those advantages on a macro level and economically, and it might not necessarily be the flashiest thing. We're not ramming down a House of Wisdom at minute 12, but we're incrementally winning the game. And as long as you have the time and the patience to do so, like Beasty does, that's why he comes out on top on a lot of these games.
Yep, exactly. He likes being the one in control, being the one in the driver's seat. And let's see if he's going to be able to do that here on Dry Arabia. Obviously, we're in game 3, so series already not going exactly how he would have wanted. We're tied 1-1, and do you think we're going to get our 3rd, 5th game series of the day?
I don't know, man. Probably. At this point, I don't know, dude. It's I think we've been going for, I want to say about 7 hours ish, 7 hours and some change. So
sounds about right.
I think I mean, if we've already put one series to YouTube, if you guys didn't see the update before, the Marine Lord Eliona and against Divine and Kiljardy, they will be on YouTube with obviously no spoilers from any of us. We have no idea who won. I don't even know if they played yet. So watch it on YouTube. So this is the last series that we're going to have. The other two we had best of 5s. I mean, they say good things happen in 3s. So, you know what? Let's just do it. I don't care, man.
You know, it does take 3 to end up winning, so I guess that is still ringing true. But going into this 3rd game, Baltune and Crackedy want to find their way to take down the Beast, to take down one of the favorites here in this tournament, and I would say in a lot of the tournaments, he's known as one of the favorites.
Oh yeah, I mean, you see the name on your screen, you know, you're the opponent, you're probably at some sort of disadvantage, and there's only a really select few of players in the AoE4 scene that have that reputation. I do know that as somebody who was a Diamond 3 trying to get into Cog 1, I matched with him on ladder, and I said, "Oh hell no," and then I left. So he puts the fear of God into me.
You're a part of the problem.
I am.
You heard that here first. He's a dodger. But initiating overlay is beginning. We are about to get to this third game in our series and get to see some further excitement that we've already been having today.
Oh yeah, let's get this overlay initiated. I'm ready to go.
Absolutely. Already hearing those sheep being brought on into the TC. Starting in on Baltune's base. He's in the color blue. He's playing as the Roos in this northwestern side. His teammate Crackedy in the teal as the Abbasid. And what else do we have in store for us on the other side?
Ooh, going up against them in a pivotal game 3. In a 1-1 tie, we have FeAge playing as the pink in the Ottoman Empire. Is going to go with that military school to start in the beginning. Let's take a look and see where he ends up going with some of those spearmen. His teammate is Beasty, again with the Roos, again with that nice little hunting cabin, going to be able to get those scouts out and get that bounty as quickly as possible. And we really haven't seen any bad bounties from Roos today.
It's hard to have bad bounties in team games. Like, you have a guaranteed, I'm going to say guaranteed 140 that there's no way you should ever have below that, because that's just 2 deer packs. You have your close one, you have your teammate's close one, that if you really want to, you know you can get those 2 before your opponents can get there. But there's so many other bounty opportunities across the map. We just saw wolf. We're going to see all these other deer packs. So there's boar, and more importantly, you have your teammate to help you if needed too.
Oh yeah, you gotta one-tap those deer a little bit for them, you know? You just gotta be like, hey, there's some deer. They're ripe for the taking. They're a little bit injured. They're exsanguinating. I think you should probably get that +10 bounty, and we'll see if some of the teammates will do that for their Roos counterparts. One thing that really just warms my heart.
Yeah, we can already see BC is all across this map, all the way here on this like, kind of northwestern side or northeastern side, all the way on the west side, grabbing a wolf as well. So just bounty anywhere and everywhere, and also having a micro battle behind his base. He has hands all over.
And you know, that's one of those, I mean, I know his bounty isn't really going to be suffering from it. Wheelbarrow is going to get queued, but that's one of those deer packs that, you know, you kind of banked on. You know, you knew you were going to have it. And a lot of the times when you're in a team game scenario, you know that you're going to get a good enough bounty to get Wheelbarrow anyway. Luckily for him, it wasn't in a particular circumstance where he doesn't have the gold, but it could have been disastrous.
I feel like all we've been seeing is all of Beasty getting the bounty. I'm kind of worried for Baltune here, as Beasty finds yet another deer pack and another wolf to go with it.
Yeah, BC's actually found a decent amount of wolves. I remember when we took a look over on the eastern side of Beasty, he did have a deer patch over there, and there were a couple wolves there also. So, I mean, we usually see something around like 250-ish, but Beasty's creeping into that 400 realm eventually. Baltune at 190, that's definitely the lowest we've seen.
Yeah,
and he's not aged up. He's not aging up.
Oh, he doesn't have the gold to age up. He's not wanting to cancel his Wheelbarrow, just now getting enough gold. So this is a significantly delayed Kremlin.
Yeah, that's honestly, that's huge. And it depends on, especially depends on what you want to do with your Kremlin and your early feudal age coming up. Baltune putting that Kremlin near the gold mine, making sure it's safe. And if it was somebody like Beasty who was planning on going for a second town center, right, it just means it takes that much longer for your town center to go up, because that's when you're transitioning off of stone. And speaking of town centers, Crackedy probably trying to get that second town center. FeAge is having absolutely none of it.
Yeah, we did see Baltune's bounty skyrocket back on up, so he just needed a little bit of time to pick up another deer camp, to pick up another wolf or so, and it did help him out quite a bit. But the main thing right now is going to be the investments into the ecos for both Crackedy as well as Beasty, who has moved on to the stone too.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting with when you're talking about town centers. Crackedy does go for military wing, which we talked about actually at great length in some of these other games that we've seen. But him using the military wing, which looks like more of a defensive strategy for using military wing, he's making sure those Ottoman spearmen aren't getting too much into his way, and making sure when he is ready to put that second town center down, he'll be able to put it where he wants it.
Oh, and he's actually dropping a bunch of houses, going for the quicker golden age, which is one of those bonuses for the ABBA, and still going to push forward and be able to probably go with a quicker 3TC play. Baltune moving out to the stone as well. All these players moving out on the stone. It's TCs and TCs for days.
Oh yeah, one of these, however, one of these civilizations doesn't seem like it's much like the others. The Ottomans aren't really somebody who goes for that extra town center. Usually for the economic purposes, they get their military units for free. So in terms of economy, you know, they don't really think about it that much. But FeAge has different plans.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he could be dropping extra military schools, but I feel like with just the way that this matchup goes, I feel like it would be kind of not the smartest to him not to go for a second town center. Just go ahead and invest in some eco. You already have that military school still working, at least one. So just let that continue to work to have a little bit of military yourself built up and invest into eco behind it as well.
Yeah, and I think especially it depends on how aggressive you're going to get in feudal age, right? If you're looking for some kind of all-in, you're making a bunch of military units and you're going to be going and attacking pretty much immediately, then yeah, you know, probably taking the time for the second town center might not be a good idea. But I could definitely see your point. Crackedy's town center going in that north spot next to that deer patch. Baltune, his teammate, finding a different deer patch of his own, which the Kremlin is going to give him a little defense when actually building it.
Yeah, and these military school or military wing units actually proving to be useful, as the spears of FeAge have just constantly been running away and slowly taken down. No really too much of a delay as far as TC buildings go. We even see some militia being called by Beasty, but not really sure where those militia are headed because, again, not too much area to be able to do anything with it.
Yeah, no, and I think with the Kremlin, even just, I don't know, it seems like stockpiling them nowadays seems to be a very good idea. But now with Beasty, with his Bardishes, I guess he was just trying to get a little bit of disruption over here on Baltune's town center. Obviously, wasn't able to do that. But Baltune, not only with that deer patch, but he's going to pull some pork over.
Yeah, just lovely, lovely spot as far as food goes for the plethora of this game. I mean, just plethora of food for a good amount of time in this game. One thing I've seen a lot of Roost players do, though, is pro scouts in these team games. So I'm wondering if either of these players have that in mind.
Yeah, and I mean, just because of how many deer packs there are out here, you know, you could see with Roost having a multitude of scouts already, just because you're trying to get that bounty, might as well put them to good use, right? Might as well delay things like a farm transition or something like that. So looks like Beasty not only going with that second town center, but will be adding a third and pulling his own pork product over.
I can't say I didn't guess that before this game even started. I mentioned Beasty probably going to go with 3 TCs, and sure enough, he is that more macro-focused players. We got the Boar Casino. Can he get it? Could you imagine if the scout just one-taps the boar and steals it?
That's okay. This is an issue.
Oh, that's a huge issue. There are some militia here, and there is a knight from Beasty, but that's at least a Vil going down. And if you're Baltune, what you're going to do here is you're probably just going to split this knight off, circle right back around, just delay this town center as much as you possibly can. On the other side, we actually have the main engagement of actual militaries, not just one little knight. We got some archer masses.
Yeah, I mean, what's nice about the archer mass, especially from FeAge, as we're doing a little do-si-do around the town center of Beasty, it looks like those villagers will be spared for now. But what's nice about the archer mass from FeAge is they are powered.
Oh, one more! Look at that micro from Baltune, able to snag up one more Vil. Yeah, he takes some town center fire on that night before rolling on out, but eco numbers up at the top, favoring Baltune and Crackedy here.
That knight micro was absolutely insane. Just being able to pull him around, getting those 2 knights going, wrapping it all the way around. The militia got their heads spun. They were doing the hokey pokey and turning themselves around as well. Crackedy looks like he's got a little bit more archers than FeAge, though. I don't know if I'm the Ottomans. I don't know if I want to take that.
Yeah, not at all, especially if someone like your teammate can start running across. Just with 1 or 2 knights is all you need to just be this massive difference in these all archer fights.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, just having that, how many archers it actually takes to take something like a knight down. I mean, regardless of Crackedy going military wing, regardless of even just the Ottoman player having that increase with the meta, having 1 or 2 is going to be a big deal for you. But knight count, just because Beasty went for that 3rd town center, is a little bit less than Baltune, but he's looking for the payoff over time. He wants to have more knights, and when they get into real important, crucial fights like Castlades, these knights are out of place, though.
Look at the pickup by Baltune. It's crazy to think that Beasty has extra TC, has that 3rd TC, but still just not having enough numbers, not having the same eco differences with the same overall TCs.
Yeah, and I think with and a lot of that maybe just from Beasty is how distant that last TC really was. It took a while to actually get it up.
Yeah, and took a couple Vil kills throughout all of this. Hasn't really been able to get too much return damage. Just a great job so far by Baltune. And the first camel has joined the fray. We have the camel unease debuff that is a 20% difference maker here in these bigger team fights.
Yeah, and that really does make a difference just because of how many cavalry units would be in those fights. Just that little bit of that decreased damage just means your archers get preserved just that little bit longer. But only 1 camel boy might not make too much of a difference because although they have a lot of HP, armor is something they lack.
That is true. That being said, it's the beginning of the fight that really matters the most. Speaking of, we have a fight that's starting to be taken. Baltune is by himself, though. Doesn't have his teammate here to help. FeAge has 37 archers, got his 14 spears to be that kind of big difference. And with the 14 spears, that also doesn't allow Baltune to just dive on that mass if Beasty decides to try to do raiding.
Yeah, I mean, I got to comment again on Beasty and FeAge. Maybe it's just because of how many games they've practiced together, but whenever there's some kind of big fight going down or some skirmish that might happen, they're always together. They're literally always together. I never see them fighting by themselves.
And that's the real way to play the team games. It's do some raiding, and then any big military engagements, you want to be fighting as one unison, one military unit that is all together. Speaking of all together, looks like FeAge and Beasty heading over to this deer location of Baltune that he does not have enough military here to defend as far as yet. Crackedy and Baltune both moving forward towards this location, want to make sure to defend these 8 Vils inside the deer. It is vital to it, but will they arrive in time? The villagers, they start getting taken out. The knights arrive, diving in on the fight. There's spears here in this front line. And maybe not the best beginning engagement, but a lot of damage coming in. And Beasty's knights trying to close the gap on top of the archers, but just not quite able to get there yet.
No, and even just the amount of knights that are there, finally going to be able to get some hits on some of the archers. What's nice for FeAge, being the Ottomans, he did have a little bit of spearmen that was left over, whether from the military school or otherwise, and they're going to keep making Crackedy and Baltune back all the way up.
And they're just going to continue to back up. This is a huge victory for Beasty and FeAge. The military mass is so heavy, and this immediately makes that 3rd TC for Beasty have that payoff so easily for himself. So all of a sudden, Beasty, he's going to have way more knights than Baltune, and we could already see that affecting 6 in queue and already 7 ahead.
Oh yeah, it just takes just that little bit of time for that TC to pay off. Once it actually got up, even though he lost a couple of villagers, the actual value of that 3rd TC we're watching. Now with Crackedy, he will be the first one going up to Castle Age. You can see highlighted on your screen, going to be going with the economic wing. FeAge is making Rams. I'm not sure if BC and FeAge know that he's going Castle Age, but if they're choosing to be aggressive right now, pretty good timing.
Yeah, really good timing. The problem is Castle Age finishes before the Rams are fully finished yet. And the Rams quite far away, so will need to start pushing forward. But the military mass is 40 in the lead of BC and FeAge. So the numbers heavily in their favor, and it will take a little bit for Crackedy to get that tech advantage and to get some of those other units out.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Crackedy's army composition right now because you're talking about other units. I only see archers in the queue for him right now, and I know that he's military wing going into feudal age, so he has the ability to get composite bows, and I would assume if he didn't get boot camp, he probably is already, but it's going to take a while for them to actually come in. Let's see if Beasty can get a night charge on those archers. Pulls back just that little bit. This town center, though, just because of those Rams, it might be going down if they don't engage.
The militia get called. There's still a decent little bit of a spear mass here from FeAge, so the Knights from Baltune struggling to actually being able to engage. Veteran upgrade has come through. I believe composite bows on its way as well, but the TC goes down. The archers starting to get closed on. Doesn't look like there's many more spears, and will Crackedy and Baltune be able to hold? My guess is yes.
Yeah, I think that Castle Age technology for those archers came in just about in time. There is a huge mass of archers there of veteran status, and because they're veteran, you can see how well they're able to take down some of these knights. Yeah, they get a couple hits. Beasty pulling out all the stops. Every single gremlin that's able to be coming out on this map is out. They will get down pretty quickly just because they are still feudal age militia. But Dabston, this is a hold.
Yeah, really good hold, but Beasty behind this going up with the high trade house, and oh my, location for it.
That is the highest of trade houses, let me tell you, on a map that's not something like, you know, something like the pit where you get good ones, or something like Hideout or something like that. On a normal map, I mean, you gotta rank it in your top at least 10.
Oh, probably so. In between 3 different wood lines and basically touching all of them. So barely has enough room to fit that high trade house, but that is just perfect because that means you get the majority of trees there involved for that extra bit of gold. FeAge having to fall back. He's the one on that single TC still, so eco damage for him hurts, but military schools will always still be pumping.
Yeah, that's the best thing about those military schools, right? Whether feudal age or otherwise, just getting those units out for free. Now Beasty's high trade house does get completed. I would imagine he's going to be hitting that veteran knight status, or that regular knight status, I should say, to really try to combat a lot of this archer mass that we're seeing here. But Crackedy doing a good job knowing that Beasty went to Castle Age. Crackedy starting to make some crossbowmen.
Yeah, but the big problem for Beasty, even if he gets that upgrade, he's at 5 knights. It's not like where you see with the French and Royal Bloodlines where it's like, oh, I got 15 knights and now they're upgraded. Now I can take this fight. Like, run with 5 knights into 79 veteran archers with composite bows, you lose every time.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it is a good victory for Crackedy if Beasty ended up taking that. What's nice for Beasty is just because he has the 3 town center economy, maybe he'll be able to get enough knights out here, because Crackedy, with all of his archers and some of his crossbowmen, starting to make his own siege. They did a hold on their side. Now we're gonna see if BC and FeAge can hold themselves.
Yeah, and Mehmed Imperial Armory is on its way. FeAge is going up to Castle as he's getting rammed on the front side. There's knights to be the front line as well. Beasty's knight number is starting to climb pretty quickly.
I mean, it's trying to get up there. We're at about 13 for him, and obviously there'll be some in the queue. They're kind of just waiting a little bit. They got to make sure that they can mass up as much as humanly possible. But looking at military numbers, if they just take this straight up, they're 30 behind.
Yeah, numbers don't always tell you the whole story, but that being said, we know his partner FeAge with all of those archers on his side, not really as effective.
Ooh, look at that high trade house that Vodka just showed. 296 gold per minute. That's just instantly getting 5 relics, or 4 relics, however much it is.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that in some of the other games. That's why the high trade house has gained so much favor now. But Baltune and Crackedy pushing forward with their military and splitting Beasty and FeAge, not allowing their two armies to work in unison together, at least as far as that was going, but not too much left. Looks like they're falling back.
Yeah, I think that's something really important to learn for people that are watching team games for the first time, because I've seen this time and time again with a lot of series that they have. When you're going through and you're really pushing your opponent, I didn't realize how advantageous it is to really push through the middle and dissecting the teammates away from each other. It's really good strategy.
Yep. Knights, though, about to start charging each other. FeAge moving forward, and now this is a point where the military numbers are pretty close to even, but I'm scared for the Baltune Crackedy mass, as the military compositions could be a hard counter for them. Crossbows trying to focus in on the knights, and Baltune doesn't really have a ton of knights here himself, so it's really up to Crackedy's composite bows and crossbows. But 81 archers with the better bonus. I don't see them winning this one.
Yeah, and I mean, you could tell that they don't think this is an advantageous fight for them either, because they're continuing to back up and trying to kite. You can even see the little bit of gunpowder over there from FeAge. Does have a couple Jans in here, so just because, I mean, there's 4 or 5 knights, and you might think, well, they could take a lot of archer fire. You just watch the Janissary bullets rip through them.
Yeah, and I'm actually surprised FeAge is falling back from this. He was absolutely shredding all of the teal units, but maybe that was one that they just made the executive decision, hey, we've been winning this fight, let's just take our victory, regroup, remass back up, and then go forward for another one.
Yeah, and we saw that a little bit in one of the last games that we watched between them too. It's just some of that incremental advantages that they get, and then you continue to get a little bit of those incremental differences, and then you end up steamrolling and taking the game. And I think because of that initial transaction that you saw here with some of those archers and a couple of Jans in there, you saw Beasty with one of his warrior monks. If you were keen-eyed, you might have caught it. He's taking relics back. He's taking the resources that he's given with the map control that he's gained.
Yep. And that's really where it's not only going to be the relics, it's going to be sacred sites, and they might actually start to try to take all 3 sacred sites slowly and start to get this timer going while still then turning into pressure as well.
Yeah, and we'll see if they're actually able to do that with the map control that you're given. You're absolutely right. Beastie going to be able to get a little bit of or attempt to anyway, get a little bit of a stronghold with a keep there, but there is no army around to protect those Muscovite peasants. They got to scrap that keep and go back to the drawing board.
Yes, they do. There's some attempted raids going in, but this is where the big differences in some of the earlier games we've seen to now is walls. Crackedy and Baltune walled on up, not having to worry as much about raiding in the eco.
Yeah, it's funny how that works with walls, huh? You get that a little bit. Now, I mean, there are 2 knights from Beastie on the northern side. He might be able to pick off a villager or 2, but this is infinitely more manageable than it was in that French game that we saw before, where Baltune was just getting endlessly raided.
And yet again, Beastie and FeAge move together with their armies. Meanwhile, Baltune kind of just stuck out with his knights. He's got 21 knights, but not quite at this location. But they are the ones dropping the keep and taking the control of the massive gold veins. This is going to be such a big key. Beastie's got 1 walled off for himself already, but this isn't just an 8K. This is a 4K one as well.
Whoa.
Oh. Double Imperial Ages coming down at the same time. Crackedy, Trade Wing, Beastie, Spiskaya Tower.
So the Trade Wing I can understand, right? It's Imperial Age. The game's probably going to go on for a while. You know, the Trade Wing can help you out in that certain regard. But the Spiskaya Tower, we're going to see some Rus stone walls. Dabston, it's been a minute since I've seen some of those.
Yeah, keep landmarks. They've started to gain a little bit of favor, and a chop through has happened on FeAge's side. Baltune spots it on out and able to get a pretty decent raid, but this is just the beginning parts of the raid as the knights are through, and farming eco is still near there as well. Oh no.
Yeah. Oh my God! Look at all those villagers, Dabs. These knights, if they
no, they're looking at him. No, they're looking at him. You said look at him. They're looking at him. That's all.
they're putting the fear of God in them, is what they're doing.
But another set of farms cleared. Yeah, there might be a spear, there might be a couple archers, but not enough to actually clear up this mass. And there's a lot going on the front side. So I get it that FeAge isn't constantly monitoring this. He's like, I sent some spears and stuff back that way. It's just not enough. They're not getting there together in right timings. And he could start to get hurt from this quite heavily over time.
Oh yeah, especially if it's not dealt with. And what it looks like is what FeAge, because it looks like some of those spearmen, some of those crossbowmen were just incrementally like funneling in, and he might have put a waypoint there, maybe something like that, but they just would have gotten eaten up. So now he's got about 10 to 15 spearmen, but they ended up going in the opposite direction. For FeAge, to be honest, like this is going to be hell for him if he doesn't clean this up. We're going to see a big economic discrepancy.
Yeah, and we've already seen the numbers start to tilt just a little bit. He's had other villagers getting raided on some berries. He's struggling on food, and that's really the big key. Ottomans doesn't have any sort of extra food bonuses, no extra gathering rate, no golden ages, no inspiration. They're just extra military that's free.
Yeah, and I mean, it's nice when you get them in a group and you have a big bunch of them, but with the knights that Baltune has, right now he still has about 4 or 5 knights left, just sitting around in the production of FeAge. Everything that he wants to put towards the front line and wants to put towards a big push, he's got to sit back in some of his farm fields all the way back behind his base. And he lost a decent amount of units trying to do that, but look at Beasty on the other side. Now that's a raid.
Yep, just how we saw a raid coming in on the other side. Right as Baltune hits Imp, it's not the Spasskaya Tower, although I'm sure he wishes it was there right now. It is the High Armory, and Knights closing the gap. It's Imperial versus Imperial for both of these players, but Baltune really just wants to clear this up before Eco gets damaged. Knights haven't been upgraded. Okay.
No, they have not been upgraded, and you know what the most important thing, which maybe isn't the most important thing, but most important to me, is all of those elite knights from Beasty had Saint's Blessing.
Your favorite thing in this game. Just now having the militia get called. Knights doing a great job in idling out all this eco. So just how Baltune just crushed a lot of FeAge's eco, he is feeling the pain now, but giving high thanks to Crackedy, who is helping clear up that raid from Beasty, at least this one.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of...
Oh my gosh, deer.
Look at all that deer. He's still in 168 gold per minute. That's not a high trade house to sniff at either. That's pretty good, but there's a lot of deer back there that could be used. Now, with Beasty and those elite knights, he made Baltune pull all of his militias. So if there is something that goes down in the foreseeable future, maybe the next 4 to 5 minutes, Baltune's base or Crackedy's base ends up severely hemorrhaged, he doesn't have that oh crap button he can push. Oh no.
Oh, and gold is hurting. I mentioned how important this was in the center to protect up this gold. Well, now Baltune, he's running out of that gold. There's still a vein all the way in the north, but FeAge, he's pushing towards Crackedy's side because Crackedy had to send his whole military to help with Baltune, and the Seagate Castle starting to be dropped.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of choreography in 2v2 games that we talk about. We saw Crackedy didn't have that mobile mass. Now they come all the way over, and it looks like they're going to have a battle with FeAge, but FeAge is not Imperial yet. That Seagate Castle, any kind of Imperial upgrades, they're not there.
Yeah, not only that, half of their archers were hitting farms and not actually fighting with their mass. We have some double walls come out from Baltune, but no stone. He does not have that Spasskaya Tower. He is only stuck with those wooden walls.
Yeah, and I mean...
Oh my.
That's the one thing. Look at all that food just sent to the Ottomans. You just talked about the Ottomans having that farm economy that doesn't have those quote-unquote bonuses. Well, Beasty does with a little bit of Roost bounty, so we'll be able to help him out in that regard. And hopefully, FeAge will be able to get some upgrades, get his military back up to snuff, because right now, military count 105 to 95. You're at the point now at this part of the game where you better be pop-capped.
Yeah, both players on either side really want to be at the spot that they are 200 to 200. It's all about raiding. It's all about this nonstop clashing, trying to get some transitions into Streltsy. But Streltsy very immobile, and Beasty just splits his knights and goes for eco. Right as trade, I believe, is just now being transitioned to harder.
Yeah, and I mean the Streltsy, they do well standing still, just like you said. But if Beasty, it looks like he's just going to continue on the night train. He's going to add a couple bombards and have some siege to kind of help him out to take down some of these buildings. But look at this. You just take 2 or 3 knights and you split them off. Different areas. Doesn't matter what civ, doesn't matter what opponent, as long as you get in there. Look at all these dead villagers, and they're going to be going down all over the place on the northern part of this map.
I would just love for Baltune to actually go gather all of that deer.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be, that'd be good. Look
Look
at him trying to get a quick wall.
Not up in time, was just a little bit late. If he had gotten those up, that night mask gets cleared on up. But speaking of getting cleared up, FeAge starting to struggle on this front side a little bit. Has some reinforcements in the middle, but Crackedy heading towards his base.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about how good Beasty is doing in terms of raiding and that kind of stuff, having Baltune kind of focused on his base, but FeAge had his own little 1v1 against Crackedy that was a resounding defeat for him, and you can see that based on military counts. 123 to 70, now 69, nice, now 68. So FeAge probably is going to need to recruit some help from Beasty if he wants to stay alive.
Yeah, but Beasty's at the point where he's just doing that nonstop raiding. He actually leaves his bombards out for free, and that's a lot of resources down the drain.
Yeah, and especially for something like Horseman, to get us around on those bombards, it's got to be somewhere around 2,000 resources. And he doesn't have the high armory, remember, so those aren't cheap.
Not at all. Archers striking, I was about to say striking gold, but more like hitting the stone vein and crushing a bunch of vills. Another 4,500 food sent to FeAge. Beasty says, I'm not helping you with military. Here's resources. Defend yourself.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, that's a good strategy for team games, because that's how you're actually going to win. That's how you're actually going to be pulling out of it, because what if Beasty pulls all of his knights back here to try to help? That just means he's undefended, Baltune can recover, and all those things. He wants to keep his initiative, but he does end up pulling some knights back here. It looks like somewhere around 10 to 15 just to try to bail FeAge out.
Yeah, it does exactly that. You can see how the numbers, they're still favoring Baltune and Crackedy, although it has seemed like the game has been in the favor of FeAge and Beasty as far as like watching the game and the way that it's been feeling.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you, and I think Beasty's doing a great job of being a knight civ as the Roost, because you've seen how well he's been raiding, and he's continuing to raid. He really only needs a few knights. Now, these towns, or these rams, are not towns. That's what I was going to say. But they still do pack a punch with those rams, so maybe they'll be able to take down some buildings on the other side, and Beasty's going to be able to help FeAge over on the eastern side as well, because we do know from how much damage Crackedy did to his base, he does need it.
Yeah, definitely needing more and more help. Camels into the mix. It is still a lot of archers, though, and you're going to need something that does a little bit more damage to armored units than archers now. So would expect a little bit more of that transition to be coming through here from Crackedy.
Yeah, and I would think he would. I mean, he doesn't have a lot in the queue, but now I just saw he added a couple of camel riders, I believe, and that he is adding some hand cannoneers as well. His economy has been pretty stable for the majority of, maybe the past 5 minutes or so. So he will be able to get some of those really expensive units. Crackedy trying to get a keep over here in the middle, but FeAge is the only one with military units. I think this keep's going to go up, but as DrDabston loves to say, at what cost?
I don't know if it does. I don't think it does.
No, actually, no, I agree with you now. I don't think that goes up. Wow.
Yeah, it gets denied, and Beasty is still into eco nonstop. And just a second ago, we were saying Baltune and Crackedy still had the numbers as far as eco. Not anymore, just on the military regards.
Yeah, it's kind of, honestly, it's kind of amazing to me because we're seeing raids all over the place. We're watching Baltune's economy scramble. They're trying to take down some of these rams. The farm economy gets whatever, but the military count is 163 to 70 in favor of Baltune and Crackedy. I just don't know where all of it is. Is it spread out all over the place?
Yes, exactly. It's spread out everywhere. It's not together. It's not where it needs to be. And even if it is, it might not be the correct unit composition.
Yeah, I mean, and I think we're kind of seeing that with Crackedy before, having mostly archers when Beasty pulled his knights around. And Baltune also still continuing with Streltsy. He's got about 30 Streltsy, and they're wandering their way around the map trying to stop these raids from happening.
Yeah, the Streltsy are great if you really can, like, be that forward mass with your siege mass and get to that front foot. But the problem is they're never going to be able to at this point. It's non-stop wooden walls just getting broken through and more knights just being sent through.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any signs of it stopping. And here we go, our first little smattering of Roost stone walls. You see them over there. And, you know, with all of this raiding going on, you're exactly right. If I didn't see the tail of the tape right in front of me on screen, I would be like, there is no way Baltune and Crackedy have the lead.
No, not at all. It doesn't feel that way. And, oh, double mangonels on the villagers. He was trying to burn down the rams and just brought the torches out and so much return fire damage, but villagers barely alive. Whoa, not anymore.
The textiles saved them. Who knew a fresh change of clothes was going to help you through mangonel shots, but the third one maybe not so lucky.
No, not enough, and their keep goes down. Now the heart of Baltune's eco even more exposed than what we saw previously. Not only that, FeAge has gotten this middle location and starting to siege down Crackedy's side.
Yeah, and I mean, just with this military count, they're still pushing the initiative. There's now Baltune is actually conglomerating all of his forces here. He's got a lot of horsemen, a lot of Streltsy. Crackedy a little bit behind, and I think that is what they actually need to get some kind of power or some kind of map control right now, is just getting everybody together. Let's just all get in a group and let's just go.
Just send it.
Just send it.
I mean, the hard part there is the more keeps, the more stuff that ends up coming out, the harder this becomes. But there's a few rams here for Baltune. He's got a huge horseman mass, a huge Streltsy mass, and it does seem like they've cleared up a lot of those Beasty raids. But here come 40 more knights.
Oh man, those knights are gonna eat up the horsemen. You see them coming alive, but Streltsy just finally getting in range, and that's enough for Beasty to be like, yeah, I think I'm gonna get the hell out of here. A lot of horsemen ended up going down in the making of that fight, however. FeAge trying to push the initiative on the other side with Crackedy, using some trebuchets, just trying to be a little bit proactive. Maybe Crackedy will come out of that Abbasid shell.
Ooh, double mangonels immediately taken out. The keep falls, so Beasty starting to get pushed back a little bit, but this is still on the side of Crackedy and Baltune. And meanwhile, FeAge takes down a keep on the opposite.
Ooh, getting this surround on those Streltsy is so good. I mean, Streltsy, when you get them in a group and they're able to take down a target, they'll be really good at taking down knights. But when you get a surround like that, look at how many dead Streltsy there are, number one and number two. How expensive they are, even though they're cheaper than a normal hand cannoneer. It's still a lot of resources. Beasty is one to have a lot of resources, however. I think he's gave FeAge about 10,000 food at this point.
I think maybe more than that, but you know, if I'm FeAge, I am not complaining. All the help is more than welcome. Looks like Crackedy's starting to push FeAge back a little bit, and Beasty coming in for another raid attempt, finding a little gap in that wooden wall.
Yeah, it's crazy. For Beasty, it's crazy how it's just been knights. It's just been knights the whole time. Just bringing 2 or 3, and you're going to see probably some of them branching off. You can see them on the trade route. That's a lot of dead donkeys, but look at that 3 or 4 just strailing off over there on the left side, just killing some more traders, making those Streltsy get their steps in.
Yeah, just proving to be very effective, and that's why Knights are talked about so much. Beasty getting a little bit of his gold vein rated, though, on the eastern side. Not a huge worry as they are trade booming behind it. He probably wants these vills to go down and is just trying to deplete the gold on the map.
Yeah, I think he's more than okay with letting that eco count go down. And if you take a look at the eco, which Vodka is showing us on the top right, Beasty and FeAge have a pretty substantial trade route going with 66 traders. The economic count has been consistently falling for Baltune and Crackedy. I want to say more on the side of Baltune just because of all those endless Beasty raids.
Yeah, no trade able to really be sustained. There's still 22 for Baltune and Crackedy, but just not enough, not anything comparative to the other side. They're trying to push out, they're trying to get more of this map control, but every time Crackedy starts winning the fight, Beasty comes over with his Knights, and that is, again, the difference with the mobility. I talked about it, you know, it's usually a little bit easier to see in earlier ages in the games when feudal age and it's, you know, French Knights and English longbows. But now we're seeing it here with Roos making the huge transition to Streltsy. He can't go help Crackedy easily when Beasty rotates that way.
Oh, exactly. And that's one of the reasons why Streltsy are very good when you're being proactive. It's almost a lot like English longbowmen, right? Because they don't have the mobility. They do really good, just like in that battle that we're seeing right now with Baltune and Beasty. This is a fight that they want to take. Beasty is sitting there with his Knights so the Streltsy can sit there and do some damage. If they don't have the opportunity to do that, I don't care if they have a gun or an axe or an ICBM, they're just going to be walking around.
More and more. This time, FeAge is even the one getting to get some raiding action done. It's not just Sipahi. There's a few Knights trickled in there as well. There's more and more siege coming to this front line. It looks like Crackedy's base is going to start getting hurt more than Baltune's was earlier.
Yeah, and I think honestly, it's just all about trying to stop that trade. Baltune and Crackedy continuing to make traders, but a lot of them died on the left-hand side because of a Beasty raid. But I think Beasty has some problems in his own as we're getting into almost the 42nd minute of this game. This is a pretty big force of Streltsy and Horsemen with Baltune with some Rams to provide some DPS to buildings. Beasty might be in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, and Camel Rider's going to be that easily effective unit in dealing with these raids that have been going on. Not only raids, they can take down Rams pretty well. They can take down these Sipahi. They can take down Siege. So if Crackedy has the resources to afford it, Camel Riders are going to be an awesome transition.
Yeah, I really like that idea too, especially if, and Beasty, he has, it looks like 54 Knights in the queue, looking at the top right part of the screen, unless I'm reading it incorrectly. But now that he has the economy, as much economy as he has, for Knights being such a powerful unit, he can just consistently stream them, while Baltune is just consistently streaming things like Horsemen. So if Crackedy is going to be able to get a good mass of Camel Riders, he can provide that counter to Beasty, and it means that FeAge might be sitting alone.
Yeah, the only thing is oh, we see some insufficient stone coming in for, I think that's FeAge trying to heal Beasty's keep. So FeAge is definitely starting to lose out in some of this positioning on the map.
Yeah, I think he is too. What's nice is with a lot of those resources, they're kind of been dried up anyway. So a lot of of the resources, I mean, yes, you're losing the geography, but the actual resources that you're getting from it, maybe not too much. Looks like that gold mine might be about halfway completed. But again, Baltune continuing to push that initiative to Beasty. And yes, there are a lot of Knights in the queue. Yes, there are a lot of resources that Beasty has, but there's still this mass that is continuing to push. So you got to do something.
I feel like he needs more stables. If he has this much in queue, he should always be max pop and not like waiting for this. And if it's not at least 50 Knights out, then he doesn't have enough population space for military.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how his population, that's a very good point. I'm not really sure how much population he has devoted to villagers, but I do see a nice pool of Beasty villagers. Looks like about 25 to 30, and I think they're cruising for a bruise, and we're looking for some more Knights to come out.
Yep, this time FeAge comes and helps Beasty's side as Beasty was losing ground in this mid-map, but you know if FeAge is coming over to this side, Crackedy should be pushing pretty heavily as well.
Yeah, and I think we could probably notice that, but Crackedy actually using his reinforcements to try to help, but there's a decent amount of Camel Riders over here against Elite Knights. Beasty trying to put that keep up on the western side. I'd be hard-pressed to think that ends up going down, but he finally got able to clear that Baltune mass over here. Military count in a huge swing. Beasty and FeAge now with the lead, 116 to 72, and that Roost Keep goes up, Debs.
Roost Keep finishes. Beasty doesn't care about any of the villager losses, as we were just talking about. He needs more military out, so everything that dies as far as eco goes gets replaced by military with that Knight Q that he has and Ram Q as well.
Yeah, I think this is kind of looking like game. Baltune actually GG's. Oh my god, I'm so good at this. Baltune GG's, Crackedy GG's soon afterward, and it was just a constant onslaught of Knights from Beasty with supporting forces from FeAge to get a 2-1 series lead in this one for game 3. Game 4's match point.
Absolutely correct. I felt like there was a time where there was almost a time where transition was needed, but Beasty just kept the Night Raids going, kept the damage going, and then it ended up just proving to just be too much.
Oh my, look at did you see the villager count for Beasty? There was almost, I think there was he was at about 165 villagers at one point.
Yep. And then he decreased, but what you're forgetting about the decrease is he also has all this trade as well that replaced it. So he's still sitting probably at like 130, 140 eco. Beasty loves doing that because he knows just trading his military for their eco will give him this advantage over time because he's just having extra resource bank.
You know what? Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say too. Having that little bit of increased villager count just means you stockpile, right? For post-Imperial, it just means he's pop capped for pretty much ever. And you could see Beasty in terms of military count never really got too high until some of those villagers started losing their lives. But they did it for the good of the series, I guess you could say, with a 2-1 lead for Beasty and FeAge. And the next one, Dab's going to be on Dry River. We got Delhi on both sides.
Yeah, just how we saw with this map, Delhi is really, I feel like, saved for this map specifically. The Delhi players go with the water and the other teammates go for the pressure, whether it's feudal age pressure or, in this case, probably going to be seeing some spears in the Dark Age from either side.
Oh, yeah, I would imagine so. With the Delhi Sultanate, I remember we talked about it just a little bit on Cauldron. Actually, we did see a Delhi and Ottoman Wombo combo, and Delhi went more into, instead of Ghazi Raiders, went for the Tower of Victory and the Archer play, and the Ottomans went more Sipahi. It's quite interesting when you have two of these civilizations who have unique horsemen and that Archer counter, which one you actually go for. Yeah.
Exactly. And the same can be said again for like the Mongols. It's like, do the Mongols want to go for the Keshiks if Delhi are going with the Ghazi Raiders? One thing we do know is if one side starts winning in water and other side starts getting denied, it can get really ugly really fast. We saw a point in the games earlier. I think Zerton had more Ghazi Raiders than military from Louis and Yui total. So don't want to see it getting to that point, but it could get there quite quickly because it's about these early game builds and the way that this kind of Dry River is going to play out.
Yeah, I mean, it's about the early game builds. It's about the early game boats, right? Just getting those docks up in those areas, getting your... I like how, I forget which player it was, but when they did put a dock up, they put 3 fishing boats out there just so they can garrison them in that dock. Was a really good idea. Obviously, being the Delhi Sultanate, like we've said before on previous Dry River games, those fishing boats do get angry and shoot arrows at you if you get too close. So a lot of the times for spearmen, you can't necessarily burn down the dock, but you might be able to create just a little bit of mayhem with the spearmen that you get, maybe a little bit of map control to get that dock up in the first place.
Exactly. And at the very least, what that does do is if fishing boats are shooting at your spearmen, that means they're not gathering. So it still is causing some idle time, but there can always be this time where if there are enough spearmen, it's too much to deal with, or it forces out those archer ships. It forces out military ships, which is never a feels good on a map like this.
Oh yeah, and we saw that too, right? We saw some archer ships come out just to try to prevent. We even saw a demo ship on one of the Dry River games. But once feudal age starts and you get to that early to mid feudal age kind of area, you see archers. They're going to be able to take down archer ships. It becomes kind of a wasted resource at that point if you're using them. And for the only, I mean, there's usually 4 places for shoreline fish. If it was a place like Golden Heights where there's a lot of deep water fish, there's a lot of shoreline fish, there's just like thousands of food just left in the water there, I could understand it. But for those little ponds that only have those extra shoreline fish, I don't know. It doesn't seem very advantageous to make military ships.
No, not at all. It becomes, it's like when players, high elo players talk about keeps, except like it's even worse than that, because like a keep, it's like automatically gonna be firing. It's like you don't have to like aim it. It can't be dodged, all this stuff, and it has a bigger location. Whereas like the military ship, it's like, yeah, they have to like have military units go to that location and then they'll start firing, but they don't really do that well. And it's not like it just like slaughters through all these units.
Right, right. And it's not like it has the defense of a keep, right? You have to make a concerted effort to try to take down a keep. You don't really need to make a concerted effort to try to take down an archer ship, right? So I guess that's what makes it a little bit not as strong. But my screen is telling me that our overlay is initiating. Commence initiation. And we're going to get right into game number 4. Baltune playing as the Ottoman, spawning in the north. His teammate playing as the Delhi Sultanate. Crackedy in the color teal. DrDabston, my friend that we've been casting for the past 8 hours. Tell me, who are they playing against?
On the other side, we have spawning in on the south in the color pink, FeAge and Beasty in the color red as the Delhi Sultanate in the eastern side. So really, really interesting map here with all of these water ponds in the middle with the shoreline fish. Who is going to be taking water? It looks like Beasty and it looks like Crackedy, exactly as expected. One thing that is different than what we saw in the Delhi games earlier on this map, they are opposite from each other. They are not on the same sides.
Yeah, and I think that's going to make it so this Dark Age might be a little bit more peaceful than the last one that we saw. We saw both of them. There's 6 ponds out here. There's enough fish for everybody, but they were kind of just fighting over the same pond because of them being across from each other. Now it's becoming Beasty on that eastern side is going to be able to take some of those northeastern areas, those northeastern ponds to get his fish. Crackedy on the other side, on the south side, will be able to get his own. So maybe there might not be as much turmoil before we get to feudal.
You say that as a barrack starts to finish on the
I know,
Uvu
I love it.
and spears start to come out. The military school is out as well, but you need more than just a military school to counteract and equalize a barracks on the other side. You will need your own barracks at the very least. So that's going to be the question, or maybe he just uses the spear to try to stall out a little bit and then gets into feudal age and denies there.
Yeah, I mean, and those are the places you can actually go with those spearmen too. I mean, no, usually you get to a point where it's about 2 minutes, 30 seconds by the time he actually gets to that other side. Probably be about 3 minutes. I don't know how much in terms of damage that you'll be able to do. Might be able to stop something in terms of a feudal age progression. If you don't necessarily want to go to the dock, you end up going somewhere else. But Baltune does have a spearman, probably from his military school. FeAge having 2 spearmen just because he is the Mongolians getting them out 2 at a time. So it's going to make Baltune and the Ottomans have to back up.
Yep. And that's where the spears from the spear from Baltune should just get wiped. I wouldn't be bore pulled to maybe just try to get as much return damage as possible. But in reality, he's just going to lose that spear.
Yeah, I'm going to be quite honest with you. I love the play from Baltune, and you want to use the map to your advantage, heads up. But if you use a melee unit to try to kite the boar, it just kind of goes to you.
Hey, look, the boar got 2 attacks on the return spears. It's more damage than he would have done with his spear alone, so we'll call it a win.
Okay, dude.
It's not a win. It's not a win. We get it. He lost the spear. He tried to get as much damage as possible. But now, 4 spears starting to stack up and headed towards the dock of Crackedy.
Oh yeah, and you have to cause a little bit of duress, right? I mean, with the Mongolians, it's a little bit nice too, just because you have the Khan, and this is one of the things that we did see in a previous game also, getting an outpost over there. If there are any kind of ships that are coming out, this one might be a little bit too close. However, I'm not sure for as far as Delhi Sultanate fishing ship firing range, but based on how that outpost is going up, did they leave their arrows at home?
One thing I will say is you can dodge the arrows. It's like archer ship arrows, except even less. So the villagers should be able to get this outpost up. I'm surprised the other ships aren't trying to go in from the other side. The one single spear is there, but that pawn might just be fully denied. And it's deer stones coming in. There is no market on this map, but I'm still surprised without, you can obviously drop a market as a teammate.
Yeah, I think it is pretty interesting to go with deer stones. We haven't seen that much today. Crackedy going with the landmark that we have seen pretty recently. Dome of the Faith going to be able to help him out just a little bit. Man, this outpost, I thought it was very forward, very aggressive, cheeky, whatever synonym you would like to use. But man, that just hits the spot. It's so perfect.
Oof, and just not quite able to deny the fishing yet, but if you look away at any second for too long, I think it takes 2 full shots if it's fully inside to shot the fishing boats. But it looks like Beasty's just going to move on and build another outpost into the next dock. And this is all without arrow slits. Fishing boats, though, they spot out some of the vills, and oh, look at the dodge.
Are you kidding? Oh my God. Now remember, this is not Beasty that we're watching. This is FeAge microing as a developer, microing his villagers around those Delhi fishing boats. You gotta give props to these guys, like the people like Mito, who we saw, the people like FeAge, who we saw, who helped develop and design this game, and man, did they know how to play it.
Yep, the first dock of Crackedy's starting to get burnt down, and we are seeing an archer ship in queue on one of those docks, so you can see how the investment has been forced. We said that's the last thing you want to be doing, and Crackedy, he's forced onto it. Oh
yeah, and you kind of understand. Oh, that tower maybe a little bit too close. Had to delete it. Those spearmen actually getting caught in the crossfire as well.
Oh,
they're gonna go down. Oh no, good micro, good micro. We're just anxiously awaiting their deaths.
Yeah, just seeing one arrow just barely maybe reach there. Like, oh my God, it got there.
Man, Beasty going with an archer ship of his own, but look at what Baltune did with his Vizier point. He went with the Imams in Feudal Age to try to heal up those archers and have a little bit of group healing. What do you think about that choice?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense if you want to like go all in for this dock like he is trying to do. They know that he needs to deny the fishing on the side of Beasty. The big problem here is I feel like Crackedy has had his fishing denied way harder comparative to the other side, but the Ghazi Raider arrives at the perfect time. There's still one vill alive though.
Unbelievable. Micro, that is unbelievable. Doing a little bit of a wraparound, making sure that outpost is 100% built, and that Ghazi Raider is it's a pretty expensive unit, especially in Feudal Age. Yes, you took down one villager, but you didn't do your intended goal, which is to stop an outpost.
He's so close to stopping that outpost. Needed one more swing, but not able to do so. And this is the point where FeAge just upgrades the outpost, and I think Crackedy just loses water.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what else he can do, especially with Baltune, his counterpart who did not go water, doing things like making horse units like Sipahi, and then there's Ghazi Raiders going to be coming out from Crackedy as well, where the majority of military units that you have are spearmen. Now Baltune is going more for an archer mass. I see that he's got about 17 archers, and you can count just about every one of them going to be starting to move south, trying to take out some of this Mongolian army.
Yeah, and you can see Crackedy asking for the help, saying, hey, we're about to lose water over here. How's your fight going on the other end? Are you stopping Beasty's water? The answer is no. He did not stop Beasty's water. So, not a good look, but still, it's not too far out of reach for them, as haven't taken too much damage. Yes, water's been delayed, but it hasn't been denied, and delay isn't the worst because the fish is finite. It ends up running out anyways, so the delay could end up being a lot worse off.
Yeah, and I mean, especially with, I mean, how many resources you're going to put into this, right? And we're seeing how important that outpost is. It is going to end up going down eventually, probably before arrow slits. Those spearmen are going to try to desperately sprint away for their lives, but got to go over there and make another dock. All of those are idle villagers to me. I mean, whether they're on water or on land, they're still not doing their job.
Right. 100%. And it's all about the maximum efficiency. You want to have your villagers, your fishing boats working as long as possible and not having to idle, not having to walk around or idle. Speaking of walking around and idling, Baltune forced off of the stone and gold.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're the Ottoman Empire, I guess that's one of those civilizations that gold isn't necessarily imperative, quote unquote, unlike a French or something like that. Crackedy, actually, with a decent amount of villagers on gold as the Delhi Sultanate, and I know that there isn't been any kind of sacred sites captured from their side. Beasty just got one on that eastern side, but going for a fast castle anyway, and House of Learning getting dropped.
House of Learning is on the way, and Baltune able to get some return fire damage onto Beasty's villager eco, taking one off of gold. And Beasty might be trying to get a Castle Age timing himself, but Baltune could be delaying that with the rating on the gold.
Yeah, he's doing quite a good job with those Sipahi.
Oh my demo ship.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
we'll see
my
if it
demo.
actually gets some damage. I think FeAge's got to be careful. He's got to be careful.
Oh, just barely able to escape with a few of those archers, but that definitely paid for itself.
Yeah, it did. With only, I think it's what, 80 wood, 80 gold, something like that for a demo ship taking down that many archers. You can't beat that. The military count actually still in favor of Beasty and FeAge. FeAge doing a good job of getting a good source militaristic in the feudal age for Mongols, and actually not going for the Keshiks like we were talking about before about horsemen, a lot of these unique horseman units, whereas Beasty is sticking with the Ghazis.
Yeah, one key here is Beasty has a sacred site, and Crackedy doesn't. Crackedy does have that Castle Age, and Beasty is on his way himself, a little bit delayed, but has extra eco behind this to do stuff with.
Yeah, I think that's what's really important too, with the fishing ships being relatively untouched. So he's going to be able to go up with the House of Learning. Also, with those docks being untouched, it means he could use his villagers to do other things, like collect wood or collect gold or anything that he might necessarily need, not maybe in the food department. But now House of Learning going to come up with him. We'll see some Castle Age units. FeAge going to be going into Castle Age himself, actually, with the step readout.
Oh, but a couple knights here onto Beasty's ecos. There's Ghazi Raiders, though, so not something to be toyed around about, not something to be joked with. You can't just easily take that trade willy-nilly.
No, absolutely not. I mean, you got to make sure when there's Ghazi Raiders around, you got to make sure to have your wits about you. And there are a decent amount of scholars here that are really healing up these guys. Crackedy going with some Lancers in that area. And although one-to-one combat, yeah, a Lancer's going to win. But when you have the power of, the power of Christ behind you, you're going to end up taking a lot of them down.
I think it's the power of education. They're scholars, Tim. Come on now.
They're probably very intelligent, yes.
The Mehmed Imperial Armory also being dropped from Baltune. We do know that means siege is on the field. Once that Mangonel comes out, you can say goodbye to all that fishing. You can say goodbye to those archer ships as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, with doing things like not just Mangonels, but things like Springolds are obviously very good against that Beastie. Going to be able to get a good raid here with those Ghazi Raiders. It looks like just about 3 or 4, maybe 5 villagers might end up going down if Baltune doesn't pull them. Looks like 2, but Ghazi Raiders, man, they can just because of how fast they are, how quickly they just took down 2 of those villagers and then just went out like nothing happened.
Nothing did happen. But now they're back, and archers are here. There's even a spearman here, so maybe a few of those going down. Beasty trying to act like these are like the knights from last game, but the good thing for him, he's castle now. So what's he going to be queuing up? Knights or lancers.
That's exactly, you can see him right now going up against some of the Ghazi Raiders and Lancers from Crackedy, and I think as long as he has a decent amount of them, he could be safe.
Yeah, villagers gonna be idled yet again. Some villagers onto the food, but fortunate for Beasty, he's still got a lot of that fishing eco working for now.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously for now is the key part of your statement, because we're getting to the part of the game, maybe in a couple minutes or so, where the fish are gonna run out and we're not gonna have sushi anymore. We're gonna be starting to look for berries. We're gonna be starting to look for deer.
FeAge jumping inside that town center, avoiding some extra eco damage. It's crazy throughout all of this game, the eco numbers, they're basically dead even.
Yeah, for how much, I mean, this has been so, it's just been so much turmoil throughout all of these. There's been raids all from just about 10 minutes ago, you know, starting when everybody was in feudal age, and then some of the dark age spearmen that were in across too, maybe getting a villager or two, that first Ghazi Raider getting a kill 5 or 6 minutes. It's kind of amazing to me that all of these villagers were at 103 deadlocked even. I think a lot of it because if I'm scanning the minimap, I don't see a second town center from anybody.
Yeah, and we're just now starting to see walls in by Baltune, of all people, who is choosing to be the first one to invest in that protection on his eco. Villager unfortunately loses his life for protecting the city, but job has been done.
Yeah, he will be remembered fondly, I would imagine, if Baltune ends up escaping this one with a win. But military count for Beasty and FeAge is just about 20-ish higher for them. So if they're able to group their forces together, and they are, Baltune just has 1 Janissary over there. Archers will probably make quick work of that. But now with these forces together, we'll see how much damage he can actually do to Baltune here.
Yeah, this is going to be the key. The Janissaries we've seen in a lot of games today just crush the Knight Masses when they aren't focused down on. So that needs to be the focus from FeAge. In these micro battles, archers need to be killing all of the Janissaries, which is up to 16, by the way.
Yeah, it's been growing at a rather rapid pace, and he has a lot in queue, so he's going to continue to do so. This has been a very cavalry-centered game, and we could see that just based on, you know, the civs that we were going up against. Oh, Jans are going to rip him apart, Dabs.
This is not a good engagement here from Beasty. He's literally going to... I mean, that was double-digit knights.
Oh, man. In a blink of an eye. They're all just a part of that lumber field forever.
Only a few knights left. They still got a little bit of health on them, so nothing too worrisome. But Beasty and FeAge now dead even in the military counts with Crackedy as well.
Oh man, I think this game we're gonna be in for a long one with this one too, just because of how even everybody is. You know, I mean, Beasty's trying to get a lot of these raids. You're exactly right, playing like the Roos does with some of those Lancers and some of those Ghazi Raiders, but I don't think he's been as effective. FeAge getting pretty effective though. There's a lot of villager kills.
Yeah, you said it is all about this deadlock. It might be this extended one, but with these night fights, with these bigger military masses, all it takes is one misstep for everything to turn upside down. Crackedy taking a good bit of damage, but they are looking to get a nice flank in on this military mass of FeAge's. Knight circle, Lancer circle. There's a decent amount of spears here, and the rest of Baltune's army is running, albeit slowly, because there's a Mangonel with it.
Yeah, it looks like some of those Janissaries were going by the speed of a Mangonel. Beasty trying to get a flank over there on the north side with just 1 or 2 Lancers, but Janissaries made quick work of those. A lot of the front line from Crackedy got reinforced with a lot of Lancers. I mean, to be honest, this military count is pretty much even, but it felt good for Baltune and Crackedy looking at this.
Yeah, I don't know how the numbers still seem so even, because it felt like FeAge's force got obliterated, but a ton more spears, a ton more crossbows and archers in reinforcements and jumping on in. The benefit for them is it's no longer a fight right in front of the base of Crackedy's, but there's Knight circling the base of Crackedy, and he's taking a lot more damage.
Yeah, and you can tell just based on the eco, right? There's a lot of idle time around those farm fields. Beasty and FeAge now has a little bit of a economic increase, but I think it's going to start to dwindle a little bit. There are a lot of Janissaries and a lot of Lancers over there on FeAge's base. If they're able to find a lot of villagers, it could be a death sentence. They're right on top of that step readout.
And they do, not to mention there is a secondary town center. You said earlier no secondary TCs, but there's a secondary TC from Baltune and FeAge on either side now, but still tons and tons of damage, so we'll be able to replenish this eco damage a little bit easier for either side of those, but still doesn't mean it's easy by any means.
No, definitely not. I mean, even with 2 town centers, it's going to take a little bit of time to do that. So with a lot of these villagers being idle right now, you could see FeAge is starting town center. There's just the entire mass of Baltune is just sitting there. Baltune actually doing a good job making sure his own base is safe, and a lot of it is just because of the Janissaries that happen to pop out of those archery ranges in those military schools.
Yeah, and it's crazy. All of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, Baltune and Crackedy have thinned out Beasty and FeAge's military significantly. Eco numbers still favoring Beasty and FeAge, but the military matters quite a bit here, and a third town center gets dropped from FeAge.
Yeah, I think he feels like he has to just because of how much resources has been depleted by him in the course of villagers and idle time. But there were a lot of, in this battle that we're seeing right here, there were a lot of archers in the background and a decent amount of lancers from Beasty. And somehow Baltune's massive Janissaries just got wiped.
Yeah, Scholars providing a ton of healing, tons of crossbows on the backside as well. And just kind of, again, gotten back down to this dead even overall spot in the game. It's crazy. BC and FeAge just slightly ahead in the ecos, but it's always hard to tell just by numbers. We don't know all the upgrades. We don't know all of the extra other passive benefits.
Yeah, I guess that's what I feel spoiled with in a 1v1 setting, because in caster mode you're able to see all of this, but in 2v2 you kind of got to keep track of some of the technologies down in the bottom just to make sure. Now with these guys now again being somewhere around dead even, they're going to start to shore up their defenses just a little bit to try to avoid getting raided. One thing that I've noticed while casting a couple of games on Dry River, there are some stone walls around here, but it's a difficult map to wall in general.
Yeah, it's weird. You like don't have these nice position points that you want to wall. It always feels weird putting walls next to these lakes. I don't know why, but it just does. And we're finally starting to see a little bit more of an investment here. More Lancers circling for Crackedy, and FeAge about to take a bit more damage, and eco numbers not going to be looking nice for him. Or Beasty as well, as Keep was about to be dropped right as the Lancers were arriving too.
Oh, there are so many Lancers over here from Crackedy. Beastie's villagers actually stopped because they have no idea what to do. I think they started to pull their shivs out for a minute. I'm going to assume it was a little bit of a delusion or hysteria because they realized they were going to lose their lives. It's a lot of villagers on either side, and it looks like, I don't know if there's enough Lancers here from Beastie, but they do have those Scholars to try to help him out.
And it looks like the main fight in the middle from Baltune. He's trying to push up. There are enough Scholars because not only the Scholars, FeAge comes with his crossbow mass. A little bit of an archership though, getting some decent damage. Not quite like a Mangonel, but still effective enough.
Yeah, it was pretty effective. And I see some Let's see if we I couldn't even finish the sentence in time before the Janissaries blew up that demo ship. I was hoping maybe we got a little bit of an explosion, but not so much that time.
Scholars circle around. Beastie wants that, well, I was about to say third sacred site, but once the western sacred site, since the middle one is currently decapped, another archer ship comes out. Every single time one of those comes out, it just immediately gets taken down, so just wasted resources.
Yeah, I don't know if it really seems like a good idea to continue to pump those out, especially because of the base damage of those Janissaries. They'll really be able, any ship that comes out, they'll really be able to take it to school. But it looks like when it comes to the army compositions and the masses out of each player individually, we're looking at military count here. Most of the military right now for the Baltune and Crackedy side is going for the way of Baltune. I don't know if Crackedy has that much.
No, it doesn't. I mean, he's got 16 Knights Lancers still out on the field somewhere, as well as some Ghazi Raiders, but their main job is going to be protecting that mass that was just spotted from FeAge and Beasty moving up.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. Beastie finally getting that western sacred site, and probably that middle one will be next for him if he wants to take it. But he's really trying to eye down some of this economy from Crackedy. Look what Crackedy. That is Crackedy's entire military right there.
Yeah, and it would have been great if he got a lot more of the AoE damage in, but really was only able to take out one knight at the beginning of that raid. That being said, Baltune got a pretty significant mass in the middle. He's keeps on sending rams on that way and wants to take down the keep to allow him a central point to start pushing through from.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're really missing in this game as we're getting towards the 25th minute. There really just isn't an avenue where somebody is making that kind of death push, and Baltune's trying to get away from this keep from Beastie, and there is that mosque there as well, but it looks like FeAge has something to say about it. He's going to pull his army right in there.
Yeah, I don't know about this though. There's double Mangonel. He's sending a few spears that way, but the Mangonel's able to hit that choke point pretty efficiently, and Janissary is going to be able to keep those alive very, very well. The keep almost goes down, but all of the rams get taken out, and villagers arrive to heal this up. There's just nothing to keep the villagers alive.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe FeAge was trying to sacrifice maybe just a little bit of his units to make sure that keep goes up. There are villagers behind FeAge, and Beastie's villagers are trying to help. That keep is going to be able to take down a decent amount of Janissaries. It looks like they might be able to stop it from burning somehow.
Yeah, unbelievable micro from Beastie jumping in and out of this keep. There's been so many units here that have continually been able to stay alive. Ram not yet been able to re-arrive to start taking down the keep, but the Springald gets surrounded, and the Sipahi continuing to press forward, pushing back not only FeAge's army, but also Beastie's, and another Springald immediately gets taken out.
Oh, the villagers just popped out of that keep from Beastie and torched a Mangonel down. That was absolutely huge. Now Crackedy's finally coming back here. Baltune was doing a little bit of a 2v1 here against Beastie and FeAge. Now that Crackedy brings in some of his reinforcements, some of his Ghazi Raiders and Knights, he calls it.
We have the third game, number 5 of the day. Not enough excitement, not enough can be said. We are moving into another one. Crackedy and Baltune taking game number 4.
Wild. What a wild series. What a wild day this has been, to be honest with you. And I'm kind of shocked how well Baltune, I got to give him the credit on this one for this game, because he kind of 2v1 Beastie and FeAge in that middle area. And then as soon as Crackedy ended up bringing his Lancers and his reinforcements, they just called that game.
What? I mean, I feel like that was a weird call, but at the same time, I feel like there was kind of this point where when you're playing, you know if you have a chance back in it, and you know when you're done. And that military count to me says you're done.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, FeAge had, it looks like 5 military units left, and he did have a lot in terms of villager count just because of how many town centers that he had. He was able to replenish, but, you know, obviously it would be a little bit of time, and he probably wouldn't be able to remass this military. But now for our final game of the day. This is definitively our final game of the day, because it is a best of 5, and it is our 3rd consecutive best of 5. And look at what we got on the table, DrDabston. It's Hill and Dale and China on both sides.
Yeah, I'm not surprised about the China pick on both sides being Hill and Dale. I'm I'm just a little disappointed.
Right. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, it's like that typical, it makes you feel even worse about picking China. But we know who's playing China on the Baltune Crackedy side. That's for sure. Crackedy, he is a China advocate. He's a China lover. So we'll see what we got in store over there. He's paired with Mongols with Baltune. So, and a Civ that can kind of be viable in a couple different avenues. We saw this exact pairing earlier with, was it Yui and Louis, and they were able to get the victory based off of investing more into feudal to protect trade.
Yeah, I do remember that, and they did put a decent amount of stock into Zugnu. I mean, obviously, any good Chinese player would tell you to do that, right? But in the FeAge, obviously preserving that, I think they got up to about 40 traders, and then they were able to elongate that trade route. Yeah, I'm starting to remember that game a little bit more. Now that we're talking about it, maybe we see the same thing from Baltune and Crackedy. That was a game that I don't think was as long as I thought it was going to be at the time. It was more feudal aggression than expected.
Yeah, and it's one of those that if you get enough damage, if you get enough, let's just say trade, and then your opponent tries to start denying it and isn't able to do so, well, then you find yourself such a leg up, and you already have your map control kind of secured with your trade route. If you've already done that, obviously, if you're able to secure your trade, then it's all in on your opponent. So with ABBA and Chinese, they're definitely going to invest more into the villager booming. And when you villager boom, first, the resources are more finite. You start running out, which means you have to move out on the map. You have to take more map control, and more map control means more vulnerability.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's just like it reminded me when you were talking about how many villagers, it reminded me of like locusts on a tree. I mean, you get a bunch of them, you're going to end up eating that tree, and then you got to go somewhere else. And that's kind of what those two civilizations are good at. And if we've seen some of these Hill and Dale spawns, you look at, again, talking about locusts and trees, I didn't realize how good of an analogy that was when I said it, but it's going to be looking for extra wood.
Don't keep bringing up the locust and trees analogy here. We're gonna move past to another analogy over here, or maybe even just no analogies at all.
Let's just stop. Actually,
we're getting towards the end of the day. Maybe we'll just move on to the game here. But 30 seconds until game time. It's China Mongols. It's China ABBA. The last game of the day. Who do you have?
Oh man. I see Beasty. I don't want him to get a big ego because of this, but it's always like ever since probably 20 years ago when LeBron James came in the league, right?
Are you calling Beasty LeBron?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
He's not necessarily. He's just one guy that you just don't want to bet against. Not necessarily if it's the correct bet placement or otherwise. Beasty, I feel the same way. I think it's stupid not to bet on his favor. So I'm going to take him on game 5, and I'm holding myself to it.
All right, here we go. We're going to be jumping on in as we see the initiating overlay. We can hear the sound start to come in, and let's see this Mongol spawn in store for us.
Hold on. Initiating.
And there we go. Starting out in the side of Baltune, southern side of the hill. He's in the color blue yet again in the Mongols. And his teammate Crackedy in the teal as the Chinese spawning a little bit to the northeast of him.
And their opponents in this pivotal game 5. Again, this is winner go home, everybody. Spawning in the red, playing as the China on the western side. It is no, I'm just kidding. It is Beasty, and spawning in his teammate, playing as the Avicid Dynasty in the color pink. It is FeAge, and this is, to be honest, pretty typical hill spawns that I've seen out of both. This seems to be a map of a little bit lesser RNG, where we're not like, wow, this spawn's ridiculous. Like both of these kind of, and for all the Hill and Dales that we've seen, kind of standard.
Yeah, I always feel weird with the front walls and front cliff spawns at times, though. Like, you see FeAge and Beasty's base. There's, like, almost a whole entire front cliff. And then you see Crackedy and Baltune, and it's like, they got a lot of space and opening on their front side. So...
Yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's going to take, especially for the side of Baltune and Crackedy, one side can't make walls, so...
Yeah. That is a that is a fallback point. Fortunately, Crackedy can build walls quite quickly as China, and you would expect these players both to invest in the walls. Sometimes they invest in the short walls on the backside cliffs. Sometimes they'll actually move even further out to the sides to secure kind of that back pocket.
Yeah, I'm curious to see also with not only how the hill is going to develop, but a little bit about these neutral trading posts, because you can see Baltune on that side of the Mongolians. If he does want to go with the silver tree, he does have a trading post pretty close to him on that western side, and then there's another one over there, probably not going to be able to get to unless he moved his silver tree a significant amount. The one thing I will say, though, is that Uvu is out there.
Yeah, it's a really big feels bad for Baltune as far as the map spawn goes. Typically with the Hill and Dales, you'll see the markets a lot closer to the corners, but you do get this map spawn occasionally where the markets are kind of pushed in more towards the central location. And BC and FeAge, they don't have a care in the world. I don't think FeAge was planning on starting with the trade wing, but I would not have been too surprised to see Baltune start with the silver tree, which I still think he should. It's just weird now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is a little bit. He is going to start with it. However, FeAge on the other side, being as the adversary, we're always very curious to pick what wing they're going to decide with. But FeAge actually going with the military wing to start. Not something I would have predicted on a map like Hillendale.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of those that you do as a just-in-case thing. Just in case the Mongol has some spearmen coming across or horsemen coming across, you have your immediate units to be able to deal with this. And then if they don't, well, then you just push forward with your units and try to do some damage and annoy the Chinese as well.
Hey, I mean, you're talking about annoying Chinese. That's music to my ears, brother.
Oh, I know you were loving to hear that. But the feudal age is getting pretty close to finishing here now that we are rounding off this 4-minute mark. And Song dynasties are going to be soon to follow. We actually see Beasty invested into the Barbican before the Imperial Academy. Again, probably due just to the threat of the Mongols.
Yeah, and just because of the way the hill is designed for them too, probably one of the main spots that if they were going to have any kind of aggression, that's where the Barbican is and where the Barbican can really help you out. So overall, pretty good Barbican place. You got to respect it. Now with FeAge, with those couple spearmen and those couple archers, I'm curious to see where he goes with them as well. Crackedy going to be going up with Song Dynasty and the Barbican right next to his gold. And I don't know, it feels like it's a little bit safer. It's a pretty safe spawn for this China player.
Yeah, sometimes you'll see players, especially on Hill and Dale specifically, kind of move out with their Barbicans to drop on one of the openings. I find it works well early on, but I feel like it's a drawback later. I feel like this Barbican, it'll accomplish its goal perfectly from beginning to end. So no real worry here. Fine location for Crackedy, and Baltune rolling that silver tree all the way along over to that corner.
Man, that thing really is rolling. And I think, what's really nice about that trade route as well, I don't know which one he's going for, if he's going for the northern one or the western one. If he decides to go for the western one, that is a honking amount of gold, I would imagine.
Oh, I would love to be able to see it, but I think I would assume the more conservative trade route if I were him. It's not always the case. We see a little bit of a Keshik charge. Just knew that. I love how he knew he wasn't going to be able to kill the scout, so he wasn't going to waste his time. He just got the charge, a little bit of damage, and ran on away.
A little how you doing, keep it moving,
Exactly. And second TC already on its way for FeAge. Looks like the Mongol Khan scouted it out, and oh my, it is not going to be a conservative trade route. It is going to be an aggressive one.
Hey, I'll tell you what, if you're going to trade, just trade, you know? And with Baltune, I think he realizes not only the civilizations he's playing against, but the players that he's playing against. We know Beasty does very well in an economic sense of the game. So he's going to be doing things like getting a couple town centers going, Song Dynasty, and just kind of chilling on his hill for a little while. The Abbasid Dynasty is going to be following suit, trying to do the same thing, or at least attempting to, I should say. He's trying to get those walls up in that particular regard, but that Khan is not happy about what that villager is doing.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Baltune was not, or Crackedy and Baltune was not able to fully deny that wall from being finished. And now the Keshik arrives and doesn't really have anything to hit.
No, but having these couple Keshiks that are out, right now he has 2, and it shows 1 in the queue, but it might be a 2x depending on how much stone he does have. Just having the couple Keshiks around, it just means that that trade route, even though it is a quote-unquote risky trade route, the other players, the only thing the FeAge has is those military wing units. Nobody's trying to make military right now. He can do this unharmed.
And look at the walls already starting to be dropped by Crackedy, going to be investing in helping protect that trade route.
Yeah, those walls are certainly going to help. It's one of the great things about when you're playing Mongols. That's one of the great things about being in a 2v2, right? You know you can't make walls, so you rely on your teammate to do that. And with China being able to build them even quicker for some reason, because they have all the perks, they're going to be able to build those walls really, really quickly, where FeAge and Beasty don't have the military units to combat it.
No, not at all. FeAge, or actually all the military units for FeAge and Beasty are just the military wing units and scouts.
Yeah, and I mean, now with the Keshiks that Baltune has, he not only has that trade route protected, but trying to cause a little bit of mayhem. And for some reason, in some circumstance, the Khan actually got back here. He was trying to get rid of that villager over there on the north side that we saw from FeAge. Didn't necessarily stop the wall, but it did keep the Khan inside. So he's kind of barricaded in here. He's just trying to wreak some mayhem.
Yeah, the benefit, though, of having the Khan inside here, it gives them information that they need. And oh my god, that's the information they need. Do you see what I see?
Yeah, I see it, Dabs. I see it.
It's not 1. It's not 2. It's 3 TC song. This is nuts. I don't know how Beasty thinks he's going to be able to afford this, because this is so much food that you got to make a huge transition. He still has deer, he still has berries, but I feel like you eat through this so fast.
Oh, I mean, I don't know how he's going to afford in this economy. He's able to get 3 town center song. I mean, he does it. He has 30 villagers on food right now, and based on how many villagers that he's producing, and he's starting to get a little bit of the military, he's adding some spearmen. Even with 30 on food, he's not stockpiling much.
Yeah, but his teammate also just finishes his 3rd town center. So we are about to see those eco numbers climb quite quickly. That being said, overall eco numbers still 2 in the favor of Crackedy and Baltune when you're including trade.
Yeah, I really appreciate a comment that was said in chat saying, considering it's Beasty, it's strange that it's only 3. I do happen to agree with you. I mean, we're going to see the economic comp skyrocket from them, but because Beasty went for that 3rd town center, it just means that he doesn't have the ability to afford something like Castle Age. Crackedy does, and it is going to go up with the Imperial Palace, but Baltune has 15 traders on his side. So we're going to see how the payoff actually is. Keshik's going to be able to get a good surround on a couple of these spearmen and actually get 1 killed, and they'll be able to escape like nothing happened.
Yeah, now they need to go find a nice wall to heal themselves up. Oh, but the brace comes in, 1 Keshik falls, and now the trade looks like it's starting to be focused. FeAge going up with the culture wing, but Crackedy, the timing is here. What is his game plan? He can grab up all the relics if he wants. He can go with some, palace guard timing potentially would be my guesstimation.
Yeah, I think
And
Palace Guards is actually a good strategy, and that's exactly what he's doing. He has 2 out now with a lot in the queue. Has the ability, as the Chinese, to supervise if he wants to, but there's no immediate danger, so he's probably not going to end up doing
he
that.
doesn't have that second barracks in his queue, it looks like.
Yikes. It's a small mistake, but it could cost you.
This is your timing push. You basically would have doubled the military out right now, as he's still got more Palace Guards in queue, but still gonna have to deal with a wall out in front of it. Meanwhile, Baltune, he's all about investing in protecting his trade.
Yeah, and I think with his Keshiks, he's going to be okay, right? I mean, FeAge is still trying to do his booming strategy, and he's still there with the Culture Wing. It'll probably be done in about 30-ish seconds, maybe 40-ish seconds. Crackedy's already getting Palace Guards knocking on the door, should I say wall, of one of FeAge's areas, more so on the northern side. Beasty, just hitting Castle Age himself, is going to be using Palace Guards to try to combat Crackedy's, but we'll see how Beasty can actually develop the amount of Palace Guards and the actual sheer mass of it, because Crackedy had first dibs on those Palace Guards. So let's see if Beasty can recuperate.
Yeah, the benefit for Crackedy is the Palace Guards on the other side, they're headed towards the Mongol player. It's Spears and Palace Guards, and it's only Keshiks. They can't take that fight. He needs something else. Fortunately for him, he's got that outpost. I would have loved to see Crackedy go for a chop through here on this north side. A lot of wooden areas to be able to chop right on through with the double walls being invested, but he is grabbing those relics behind, as I was mentioning. So I love to see the extra economic focus in from Crackedy behind this too.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially just because Baltune had those Keshiks and FeAge, you had the map control, right? So let's take the resources that the map gives you, some of those being relics. Now Baltune going with Castle Age for himself, and will be the last one to do so with the curl tie, which I used to make a lot of memes about the curl tie. I thought it was a bad landmark. I called it the curl tie, I think, something like that. It's easier to type. And
What'd you just say?
Don't worry about it. And now that it has the power and the amount of buffs that it was given, it's quite the fierce building.
We're starting to get to the point that I was worried about, though. Beasty, he's running out of food. Not only Beasty, FeAge running out of food behind their walls. They're on the last deer. It looks like Beasty is already starting a granary transition, which is nice, but still takes a lot of time to get that going, and you can see how low his food is. He is still struggling to mass up as much of a military as you want, but the more time this happens, the better this goes for Beasty and FeAge.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of times with Crackedy also doing that granary transition, as you alluded to, Beasty doing, this is like the quote-unquote weak point. But, oh, big battle here, first one of the day.
Yeah, and a ton of villagers there for Beasty trying to build that keep, but a ton of Keshiks, even though there's spears there, they're just taking the fight, wiping as many of the spears as possible. Palace Guard swinging as much as they can, but the keep, these are Chinese villagers. The keep goes up and not even losing too many vills. A fine fight for Beasty and FeAge, and this means trade no longer going to be the powerhouse anymore. The ecos, you can already see how big of a divide it has started to be.
What an absolutely insane thing that China could do. Like, he just pulled a bunch of villagers, dropped a keep, took about 20 seconds. There were 2 different armies around trying to stop that keep from happening. Goes up, no problem whatsoever. Crackedy, it looks like he was trying to wall around that area just to get to that neutral trading post, but those walls probably not going to be coming up anytime soon. You're right with the economy. Now Beasty and FeAge with 200 over 200. And they can really push the initiative now. Now they have the eco for it.
Yeah, and we're going to look back at Beasty's eco in like 2 minutes from here. And we saw like 7 or 8 farms around those granaries. Give it 2 or 3 minutes and we are going to see about 50. And we're already starting to see another 10 or 15 get dropped. Another granary gets dropped. This is that key crucial transition when China is usually the weakest, but they're pushing and burning the curl down. This is a perfect greedy play by Beasty and FeAge that's playing out.
Yeah, I mean, I just talked about the Kurotai being a fierce building, but now it's a bunch of burnt tent. So, not as fierce if you're not able to actually use it in a lot of your battles. And during that battle with that Chinese keep going up, the Kurotai was not there. So it was very difficult for it to actually be advantageous. And now Beasty and FeAge, they have the siege superiority, right? Because Crackedy went for a Imperial Palace instead of Astronomical Clock Tower going up to Castle Age, so I think that's going to hurt him.
I mean, the Imperial Palace, it's such a strong building in team games, especially Hill and Dale, where you're going to have a lot of vulnerability out on the map. The problem is how early the walls came in and just no ability to actually push that timing and push any vulnerability.
Yeah, and I think that's so difficult, especially when you're playing China on this map. You know the weak points when they do things like a granary transition, or if you're trying to disrupt them in FeAge, but how are you really going to do anything about it when you have a hill, like a spawn like BC and FeAge had, where 75% of the front of it is completely natural, impassable, and then the Barbican's on the other part.
Yeah, I mean, just for an example, when Crackedy had that timing push with his, or attempted timing push with his Palace Guards, it failed, and to get over to Beasty's side, it's literally the whole map. The whole entire map he has to run. BC starting to push through this southern side. Trade should end up being fully denied, even though I think Crackedy probably going to drop a market behind the walls to help out his teammate a little bit. But stone walls are going up, and rewall happens. There's some Palace Guards in the base, but should be easily dealt with and cleaned up.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the cases. Just send some of your military production waypointed in that general vicinity, and you'll be able to clean some of those up. And speaking of cleaned up, looks like Baltune and Crackedy's forces over there on the south side ended up, for the most part, getting cleaned up. Again, no siege out of Baltune and Crackedy. And here's another Chinese keep. I hope you guys don't blink very often, because if you do, you're going to miss it go up.
Yeah, it's kind of sad.
Look,
and another
one.
Chinese keep. BC's just got too many resources to know what to do with, and that's what triple TC China can do. Taking the full map control, taking the way of this game, and this game number 5, it looks like it's going to be not the 2-hour Hill and Dale game that some people might be wishing for. It might be a pre-30-minute game ender by Beasty and FeAge.
Yeah, I mean, if you take a look at their military mass right now, I mean, how I don't see anything that Baltune and Crackedy are doing right now that are going to stop it.
Imperial Age.
Baltune is going Imperial Age. Can't say that's going to help. There's about 100 in terms of military forces. Baltune trying to get a counter raid over here on some of those palisades from China. But again, not only are there 3 town centers, they can house a lot of villagers, but there are a lot of Chinese keeps up here. These Keshiks, I don't know what they're going to find, but hopefully they don't lose their lives trying to find it.
Well, right off the bat, they get met with the Camel Archer, so already having a little bit of that Camel unease, but they're finding quite a bit of red and pink. And is that teal? That's a teal keep. That's Crackedy. Crackedy's dropping a keep.
Where is that coming from? Where are those villagers
I see
from?
teal villagers. No, oh, there's teal villagers.
There we go. I don't know if it's enough, though. That looks like it's about maybe 10 to 15. He's going to try to build it. There's a decent amount of crossbowmen over here. That Abbasid keep over there to the eastern side does get completed at the same time. Abbasid villagers getting a little pissed off, getting their shivs out, trying to take down a lot of these villagers. I think this one, either it's not going to go up or it's going to be a photo finish.
There's a couple more units coming out. The crossbows just finished up the Palace Guards. It does not go up the Keshik mass. It's finding some damage, but Keshiks, they're not knights. They ain't it. And not quite doing the same effective job. Meanwhile, Beasty and FeAge, they're about to call a game ender, even through the little bit of damage they have behind this.
Yeah, I mean, that little bit of damage they're pretty okay with, just because of this initial force. The wall of low coming out, but it looks like it's not going to get much in the way of units, but that is just the amount of time for a keep to go up to preserve Crackedy's granary fields. Keshiks around the flank on the western side. palace guards from the south trying to get a little bit of damage on any of these nest of bees, but they are just not getting it, and they're getting disintegrated.
Yep, the push is coming in. There's 4 nested bees, and all of these infantry units, they're trying to help, they're trying to do something, but just not going to be enough up here as Baltune and Crackedy, military's about to go to single digits, and I don't see, a pre-25-minute Hill and Dale game with these civilizations, I never would have called it.
No, absolutely not. I never would have called it with these civilizations. I never would have called it with these players either. But military count, almost 100 plus for BC and FeAge. Economic count, over 100 plus for BC and FeAge. Even though Baltune does have the trade, he does have the camels are doing a victory dance. That's what I'm going to call it because we're in a PG stream.
Yeah, victory dance it is. The trade is just not as effective, and I really do feel like the market being in the corner position, this game would have been a little different. It might have been one of those 45-minute games that we would expected. It might not have gone different as far as the outcome goes, but it definitely would have been a little bit easier for this side. But this is the point where Rams are hitting the villages. Crackedy is going to start struggling with his population count. Baltune sending stone to Crackedy, maybe for some additional panic keeps or panic upgrades.
Yeah, I would think that would be a little bit helpful, but Beasty is going to be able to go up to Imperial Age, FeAge also following suit at the same time, which I've learned from you while casting today, Dabs, is that is a big no-no, but when you are that ahead in just about every single category, I think it's okay.
Yeah, it is a big no-no, but in this game, FeAge could click Trade Wing and then could immediately go to the 5th age as ABBA, and I still wouldn't give any complaints.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. And Baltune and Crackedy, I think, are kind of giving their last gasp here against a lot of these units that FeAge has. Some of those nest of bees back there. And FeAge actually is going to end up retreating just because those nest of bees got popped by Clock Tower Springolds of Crackedy's. So maybe they're able to stabilize for just a little bit more time, but are they just delaying the inevitable?
It does feel like delaying the inevitable as Beasty. He's walled in the southern side. He's done what he's done on the other maps, which is take the resources forward, deplete your resources of your opponent. There's even some vills coming into the front line. I bet you they were trying to drop an outpost or a keep or something or another. But still in a completely fine position, even though the military numbers are getting quite close.
Yeah, they are getting a little closer. FeAge's units seem to have dropped off a decent amount. Maybe it was just because he was going to Trade Wing and stopped queuing up units. But now Beasty going to be adding a little bit of siege with him on some nest of bees. It's been just based on where Beasty is in terms of attacking and his teammate. He's got to keep right on the doorstep of the hill of Baltune and Crackedy, and you're exactly right in the way that he walls. It's just about attrition now. You don't necessarily need to take the landmarks because they're going to run out of resources eventually.
Yeah, and if there's anything I know about that wall segment coming out from Chinese, it's not just the wall, it's going to be a gatehouse and a great one at that.
Oh my god, this landmark again. The Great Wall Gatehouse, if it actually gets completed, and I would imagine it would just because of the amount of military that's here, will give him good defense going forward. But Beasty's gonna sacrifice some nested bees trying to get rid of it.
Ooh, sacrificed one, 2 others able to barely get out with their lives, but Springle just turned right around, and Crackedy able to snipe out the rest of those nested bees like it is nothing. Keshix, though, looks like they accidentally clicked a unit instead of A-moving, getting obliterated here, and Crackedy and Baltune's military numbers yet again dropping scarily low, but they're still alive.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the only reason that they're alive right now is the fact that that Great Wall Gatehouse actually got completed. Now, in this particular area, we're going to be starting to think differently in terms of what siege you want. There's 4 siege workshops over there by Beasty, and hopefully he makes the right decision of doing something like a trebuchet or something like that, or having the presence of mind to just go around it.
We see some Rams, we see some Springolds. It doesn't really matter because Fire Lancers are on the prowl, and if they hit the Mongol food eco, it's over. It's over. Don't let it happen. Don't let it happen. Oh my God.
Any of them died.
I think a lot of them. I don't know. I couldn't actually tell.
I mean, a lot of them should be hospitalized, but I don't think a lot of them died. I think Textiles kind of helped them out.
More Fire Lancers coming into the mix, though, not allowing these stone walls to get finished, not allowing the gate to get, or the wooden wall to get rebuilt either. And Beasty's not the only one going to be sending in some rams. FeAge ramming as well. And they're in the backside of the eco this time. It's not just onto the front. They're starting to spread out and hit everywhere.
Yeah, and this is one of the things, I mean, again, one of the things that Beasty's really good at. We saw him in that previous Roost game with those Knights going in all of those different angles. Now Beasty just doing the same thing with Fire Lancers. And we talked about Great Wall Gatehouse, and how powerful it is. You get a group of Fire Lancers, all he does is run around it. He don't care about that thing.
Yeah, I mean, even Fire Lancers, their only job is literally to get thrown away. They just trade for as much damage as they possibly can take, and then there's the next set coming in. That's the problem with China. They have this eco that their granaries are so strong they can afford this. They have taxes that help them afford this. They're going to have all this extra gold, this map control, and so the Fire Lancer stream, it's never going to be ending.
Yeah, and this takes so much time and APM for Baltune and Crackedy to deal with, most of it being Crackedy because of the Great Wall Gatehouse being his. But on the other side, FeAge is around where Crackedy is starting to make units, and he's killing a lot of military that the Chinese have. He might be able to get into their eco.
Yeah, getting into that back corner eco would really be the key. The trade's still online. I'm sure they know it's online, but they know it's inefficient. So they're like, I guess it's something. But triple trebuchets are sieging down that Great Wall Gatehouse. That was the last line that kind of stalled and extended this game out a little bit earlier. And once that's gone, that might finally be the finisher. I jinxed it earlier with saying that I thought it was going to be a pre-25-minute Hill and Dale, as we are into the 28-minute mark now. What is that?
Yeah.
What is the...
What? Oh my God, what are we doing? This Great Wall Gatehouse does go down. More importantly, that ever so popular market that all of the traders went to, every single one of those 60-some donkeys were going to that market. It is now burnt to the ground. That trade route is now pretty much null and void.
Yeah, don't really have many other places to go trade to. That keep will go up, which will deny the Great Wall Gatehouse from being rebuilt and help. A little bit of a Palace Guard flank, but it is finally it. Crackedy and Baltune, they're calling it after a wild 5-game series.
Oh my God, this series was unbelievable. I mean, every one of these series today was a back and forth. You know, with this one, there wasn't a better way to end it at like a Hill and Dale game like that. And honestly, and I'm not even being facetious, I actually really enjoyed this game 5 and how these players decided to play it with Baltune pushing the initiative with a little bit of that trade route. You know, Crackedy trying to get a little timing attack didn't end up working out that well. Beasty sitting back with 150 villagers because no one told him he couldn't. So he went on 3 town centers with Song Dynasty, and it just ended up steamrolling.
Yeah, what an absolutely wild series. Great final game, like you were just summarizing. We're seeing some of these graphs and the wild swings, especially some of those Crackedy military drops. Those fights were crazy, but Beasty, FeAge able to hold on strong and reign supreme. You were right with your bet. You know, if you're going to take your bets, Beasty's not ever going to be a bad one to put your money behind.
I mean, it's tough not to put money on him. You know, I mean, after watching AoE since its inception, you know, it's a little bit difficult. But obviously, shout out to Baltune and Crackedy. Those guys, Crackedy, hopefully, if you guys watch EGC a lot, Crackedy is one of the main casters and on this main channel, either on Twitch or been doing these Afreeca duos. He and Baltune did a fantastic job going up against Beasty and FeAge, and I'll tell you, there were some parts of this series where I really thought they were going to win.